Hello brothers and sisters, this is Cheyenne, Loving Warrior for Christ, and I just made this video not too long ago, and then I found something that I needed to add, so I'm going to add it to the beginning of this video. This video will be kind of long, but it would be worth the watch. If you have to, you can pause it and then come back to it later, but this will be worth the watch. And and I just had to add this to it, so God bless you all. Alright, bye.
Hi everybody, today is June 9th, 2015. Earthquake warning. Another oarfish washes ashore in California. 5 beach oarfish have been found along the California coast since last spring. The 5th one was found washed ashore on California's Catalina Island on June 1st. The deep-sea creature is exceptionally rare and infrequently encountered in the ocean, but its long, lifeless body is becoming a trend of West Coast beaches. The latest casualty measured 14 feet. Adults can reach as long as 18 feet. The specimen may have been actually longer, but it appears to be missing its tail. The carcass was spotted by Tyler Dvorak, an ecologist and researcher with the Catalina Island Conservancy, who was scanning the island's beaches with binoculars. I knew what it was immediately because of the one that washed up last year, Dvorak told National Geographic. It's a pretty weird thing to see. Dvorak and his fellow researcher contacted David Chan, director of the Pennington Marine Science Center, who quickly came and collected the long, slender fish. There are currently 2 identified species of oarfish. The smaller, plainly named oarfish, which can measure up to 35 feet and prefers cooler water. But why are all these oarfish arriving on shore? It's been reported that beach oarfish may precede an earthquake. Fishermen in Japan reported finding several dozen oarfish in days before a massive earthquake hit Chile in 2010. Other anecdotes and scientific studies have confirmed the possibility of a variety of animals detecting geological phenomena. Zookeepers in Washington, D.C. reported observing odd animal behavior in the moments leading up to the 5.8 magnitude quake that struck the region in 2010. Still, it's unlikely that the latest oarfish portends a forthcoming rumble along the San Andreas Fault. I don't know. What do you think? Put your thoughts and comments down below. Bookmark my site. I'll keep you up to date. Please stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.
Hello brothers and sisters, this is Cheyenne, Loving Warrior for Christ, and I just wanted to share this with y'all. I went to see this movie. It's a very powerful movie, and while I was watching this movie, I had this very strong feeling of sorrow, come over me. I mean, it was horrible. It was worse than the way you'd feel if a loved one had died. It was a really strong, deep emotion of sorrow. I almost started to cry, and I had to, gather myself. It was that emotional. And then I heard, "This is about to happen." And I heard it more than once. It repeated it, "This is about to happen. Judgment is coming. This is about to happen." So I just wanted to share this with y'all, and I was wondering if any of y'all went to see this movie, and if you've also had the same experience with, like what I'm talking about. Please watch this video to the very end, and you'll see that there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle that seems to point to the fact that there could be something major about to happen before or around September. But here's a little bit. I can't play a whole lot of this movie clip because it's copyrighted, but I'll just play a tiny bit.
Oh my God. The Earth will literally crack open, and you will feel it on the East Coast.
I love you, Dad.
with you.
All right, hold on. We gotta get over it before it crashes.
Serious? Are you serious? Folks, 40 volcanoes right now around the world are erupting. Now, this is incredible. And all of them are from the Ring of Fire except 6. We're seeing a definite uptick in volcanic activity. Of course, we know there's a ton of increase of solar flares releasing CMEs from the sun. And so, earthquakes. I mean, we've had 4 earthquakes now in the last 2 weeks, over 7.0 in Nepal, 8,000 people dead. Are you serious? I mean, this thing is getting uglier by the minute. And so, and volcanoes now erupting. There's, we just can see constant apocalyptic events. Our planet's becoming increasingly unstable. Are you serious? But this is what Jesus said would happen in the last days. And we're truly seeing it. Now, I'll be right back. I've got some great information to share with you from the place of the skull, from Golgotha, and also from the Mount of Olives. Some very powerful information. I'll be right back.
We have 500 days to avoid the climate chaos. Very important issue of climate change, climate chaos, and I said that we had 500 days to avoid the climate chaos, and I know that President Obama and John Kerry himself are committed on this subject, and I'm sure that with them, with a lot of other friends, we shall be able to reach a success in this very important matter.
There are folks who will equivocate. They'll say, I'm not a scientist. Well, I'm not either. But the best scientists in the world know that climate change is happening. Our analysts in the intelligence community know climate change is happening. The science is indisputable. The fossil fuels we burn release carbon dioxide, which traps heat. And the levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere are now higher than they have been in 800,000 years. The planet is getting warmer. 14 of the 15 hottest years on record have been in the past 15 years. Already, today, in Miami and Charleston, streets now flood at high tide. Along our coasts, thousands of miles of highways and roads, railways, energy facilities are all vulnerable. It's estimated that a further increase in sea level of just 1 foot by the end of this century could cost our nation $200 billion. You know the beauty of the sea, but you also know its unforgiving power. Here at the Academy, climate change, understanding the science and the consequences, is part of the curriculum, and rightly so, because it will affect everything that you do in your careers. Climate change will impact every country on the planet. No nation is immune. So I'm here today to say that climate change constitutes a serious threat to global security, an immediate risk to our national security. And make no mistake, it will impact how our military defends our country. And so we need to act, and we need to act now.
This summer called Jade Helm 15. While the military says it's just training soldiers for the realities of war, critics say the Army is preparing for modern-day martial law. Trace Gallagher live in our West Coast newsroom with the story. Trace?
Megan, some are calling it a Texas takeover. What's happening is between July and September, a bunch of Green Berets, Navy SEALs, and Special Ops from the Air Force and Marines are conducting some realistic training exercises across the Southwest, including 17 different Texas cities. The goal is to see if groups of these special forces can move around the civilian population without being noticed. You know, blend in so they can place themselves in strategic positions to handle different threat scenarios. The military says these are vital skills when it comes to an ever-changing threat. But in the slideshow of the training exercise, it says Texas will be simulated hostile territory. Well, that hostile characterization didn't sit well with a far-right radio host in Austin who told his listeners that he had access to the secret document that details a federal takeover in Texas. A libertarian website also picked up on the plan, and before you know it, rallies were being held against the event. But apparently the so-called secret document was published weeks ago in several local newspapers, letting the public play very well in Texas.
Trace, thank you. We'll be right back.
An immensely popular figure will visit the United States next September. Pope Francis making his first trip as head of the Catholic Church. He will attend the World Meeting of the Families in Philadelphia. The Archbishop of Philadelphia, who was in Rome for the announcement, says he is overjoyed. He adds, quote, "The Pope's charisma, presence, and voice will electrify the gathering."
Hello, brothers and sisters. This is Cheyenne, loving warrior for Christ, and I would like to talk about something. I don't know if y'all have caught this or not, but like CNN has played a doomsday end of the world video that they were saving for just the end of the world, but they let it leak, and then they set the doomsday clock back a few minutes or something like that, and I'll put the videos so y'all can check it out. And I think they know something, and I think they're trying to, in their own little sneaky way, let us know that they know that the world is about to end. And it's kind of weird how they're doing this during a time when there's a lot of asteroids that are getting close to the Earth and not near misses. You know, maybe one of these asteroids that are headed towards us, maybe it's not going to miss us or something. I don't know. I just know that I find it kind of strange. Also, there's a man that's going around saying that we had 500 days before climate chaos, and I think he says that date ends, the 500 days ends on September 23rd, 2015, or September 24th, 2015, or something like that. But for us, the Christians that are watching for the end time Bible prophecies, we already know that we're in the end times, and we don't need them to do something like that. But it's just funny how they're doing this, and the people who are still asleep, they're not catching the hint. I mean, it's right in your face. I have a lot of people that don't believe me right now. They think that Jesus will not come during our lifetime, and they don't think that we're living in the end times. And it would just seem like a video like this that I'm making right now, would be enough to wake them up to say, look, it's not just me that says that we're living in the end times and that the world is about to end. it's also like, the news media is saying the same thing, and they're saying it from a different point of view. They're not saying it from the Bible point of view, they're saying it from their point of view. And I just follow what the Bible says, and I can tell you that it lines up with end-time Bible prophecies. So what I'm hoping is that the people who are arguing with me and saying that I'm full of baloney will watch this video and come to realize that it's not just me that's saying that we are in the end times, that even the news media is giving them a fair warning. And maybe then they'll open their eyes to see the truth. Because our time on earth is short. We don't have much time left. I'm not a fearmonger, and I'm not making this video to, cause anyone any fear. Whenever you have Jesus in your heart, you have nothing to fear, because you know that God will take care of you. The ones who have fear in their hearts are the ones who don't have Jesus right now in their heart. So if you find this frightening, then get on your knees and ask Jesus into your heart, and He'll take away that fear, because Jesus doesn't give us the spirit of fear. So just ask Him into your heart, and you'll feel a lot better once you do, I promise. Because you will not be afraid, because you'll know that Jesus will take care of you. But anyways, I really hope that the people that are, thinking that, we have a million more years left on this planet will watch this video, because I really think that the news media is hinting around at something, and it's 2 times already that they're hinting around. And I just wanted to, point this out, and, God bless you all, and I love you. All right, bye.
Well, the doomsday clock, an ominous symbol of apparent dangers facing the world, is now 2 minutes closer to doom. It's now at 11:57.
That's according to a group of prominent atomic scientists. They look at worldwide perils, specifically nuclear threats and climate change. Basically, the closer to midnight, the closer the world is to destruction.
Based on their observations, the members of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists Science and Security Board find conditions in the world to be so threatening that they are moving the hands of the doomsday clock 2 minutes closer to midnight. It is now 3 minutes to midnight. Today, unchecked climate change and a nuclear arms race resulting from modernization of huge arsenals pose extraordinary and undeniable threats to the continued existence of humanity. And world leaders have failed to act with the speed or on the scale required to protect citizens from potential catastrophe. We can manage our technology or become victims of it. The choice is ours, and the clock is ticking. But as long as there are nuclear weapons in the world, the most destructive and powerful technology in the world, as long as there are these weapons and they're poised, ready to use, as they are now, in minutes, we still need to warn the world about the dangers from these, and we need to warn the world about the dangerous choices we make on a number of technologies. We're seeing the earth-altering effects of climate change. Again, humans, our own technologies.
The apocalypse will be live. CNN's mythical end of the world video is real. The video posted to a Gawker Media blog by a former network intern has been verified by numerous sources and was to be held till end of world confirmed. The video CNN planned to air at the end of the world has leaked online. Thanks to the work of a former Internet the Network, who posted the video on Gawker Media's Jalopnik blog on Monday. The video had passed into CNN lore by the time Mike Balabin, now an editor with Jalopnik, worked as an Internet the Network in 2009. As rumor had it, the billionaire founder of CNN, Ted Turner, a man as known for his eccentricities as for his wealth and media legacy, had called for the preparation of a video to air in the event of nuclear holocaust. The legend has circulated for decades, boosted by Turner's own words in June 1980, when he said, "We're gonna go on air June 1st. And we're gonna stay on until the end of the world. When that time comes, we'll cover it. Play Nearer My God to the end sign off." Balabin told The Guardian he first saw the video while interning at CNN in 2009, after hearing about it from a professor who had ties with the network. The source who provided him the video also took screenshots of its home in CNN's Mirror archive, under the all-caps heading of Turner Doomsday Video. HFR till end of the world confirmed. HFR means hold for release. Though the circumstances of what authority should, could or would confirm the apocalypse to a CNN employee. And how. And what that employee should consider when weighing whether to publish the video as he or she and the remnants of humanity stared down the ruination of our species. Apparently via CNN broadcast. Are unfortunately all omitted. The grainy video posted to Jalopnik on Monday, lasting little more than a minute, shows just what Turner said it would. A military band stands in formation between the columns of the Turner Broadcasting Mansion and the circular reflecting pool that lay on the lawn in the 1980s. One soldier raises a flag to the right, the musicians raise their instruments, and they begin the mournful hymn mentioned by Turner, said by survivors to be the last song played by the band on the Titanic. The low resolution obscures the faces of the musicians, who finish a brief version of the song and snap their instruments to attention. The video fades to black. Balabin said the video was well known at CNN 6 years ago and remains so today. Although it took some effort to track down, it's one of those things you only look for if you're a really bored intern or have a lot of time on your hands. Neither CNN nor a representative for Turner, who left his management roles at the network's parent company in 2006, replied to requests for comment, but details of the video seem to corroborate it was actually made for broadcast during an apocalyptic event such as a nuclear holocaust. A very real threat in June 1980. The video clearly takes place at CNN's then headquarters in Georgia, the Turner Mansion, identifiable by the distinctive, devil horn shape of the facade above the doorframe. The reflecting pool before which the band plays has been removed since the 1980s, but is clearly visible in photos and video of the mansion from the decade. The band fits to the band's regiment, U.S. Army Forces Command. Is legible above an identifiable logo on the bass drum of a percussionist in the video. Georgia's nearby Fort McPherson was base for U.S. Army Ground Forces Command until 2011. There is also indirect confirmation of the video's authenticity through the diligent work of fact-checkers at The New Yorker, who in 1988 were presented with an article about Turner and his ultimate broadcast paywall alert. Turner told the reporter who wrote during the pre-byline era of The New Yorker's Talk of the Town section that the rumors about the video were true, and then showed it in his Georgia office, after a speech about how if we don't become extinct by exhausting the planet's natural resources, then we'll destroy ourselves through nuclear war. Then Turner slipped a tape into a VCR, and explained that he knew we would only sign off once, so he asked a military band to play Nearer My God to Thee for a camera. When the tape began, Turner fled the room in a fit of emotion, but what the New Yorker reporter described watching is precisely the video posted by Balabin. Turner popped his head back in the room after the clip was over and told the New Yorker, "I keep this tape around because when the world ends it'll be over before we can say what we wanted to say. Before we can leave any final messages." No matter how one interprets Turner's thinking, Balavin pointed out that his idea shares something with the morbid but common practice of newspapers to prepare obituaries long before their subjects' deaths. Turner, with bizarre, melodramatic and oddly haunting flair, prepared an obituary for the world, ready to air.
Hello brothers and sisters, this is Cheyenne, loving warrior for Christ, and I just wanted to make this video because I keep seeing the number 7 and the number 4, and then I was watching this video and I just thought it was kind of interesting that there was a cow that was born with the number 7 on his head. And then I started thinking about how long has Obama been in the presidency, and it says that let me find it. It says that he was elected the 44th President of the United States on November 4, 2008. And if you go with that date right there, he's coming up on 7 years. And that was interesting. And then, of course, I can't say this word correctly, but they say that we're in the what they call the Shemitah year. It's also known as 5772. Well, I just thought I would, share this because I don't. It's kind of interesting how all these 7s are popping up. And in fact, there's another video that was that I had seen, and the person was talking about that there is a what do you call it, a meteor or asteroid type thing coming towards the Earth, and he was showing the where it was at, and where it was at, it made a number 7 with the way the stars were all lined up, and I saw that and I thought that was interesting. I could try to put that in here if I can find it. And then it just seems like all these 7s just keep popping up all over the place, and I just thought I would share this and find out if anyone else is noticing the same things. And I'd also like to add that I've been doing a little bit of research on the Bible codes. I don't know a whole lot about them, but they are very interesting. If you haven't looked at that, I would recommend checking it out. It's really interesting. And they have what in a chart that's called the rapture, and it says like how many times certain words pop up in that little section. And like 2015 through 2016, it popped up 8 times. And so I thought that was interesting. And then right here, God's appointed times, and it's a chart for that, and it says Yom Kippur, and it's in there 2 times, and it has 2015, and then the year Jubilee 2 times, and then the rapture, the harvest, the arrival, glorious, Passover, Rosh Hashanah, a harvest, Joshua. I mean, it has different I can't read very well, but I just wanted to share that with y'all, that it has different words and how many times they appear. And what's got my interest is this Yom Kippur 2 times, 2015, and Jubilee 2 times. And the reason why it's got my attention is because there's a very lovely Christian lady that I watch on YouTube, and she says the appointed time of God, God's appointed time would be September 23rd, Yom Kippur, and I'll try to find a little bit of that to show you what I'm talking about. And then it shows up in the Bible codes also. And then they also have I think he's a scientist or some sort, and he's trying to say that there's like 500 days before climate chaos or something like that. And I think he says that the ending of that would be like September 23rd, 2015, or September 24th, 2015 or something like that. So it's the same time frame that this Yom Kippur was talked about with this lovely Christian lady that I watch. And so I just wanted to share that, it's like connecting the dots here, but I don't know if there is any connections. I'm just sharing. Y'all can come up with your own thinking on it. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, and I'm hoping that we get to go home really soon. I'm kind of already tired of this world. The sin that's here is just getting worse and worse, and I'm just tired of it. It's affecting my life. It's affecting my family. And I'm just ready for all of this to end. I want to be with Jesus really, really bad. I want to go be with Joshua. He's my Lord. He's my Savior, and I love Him with all of my heart, and I'm ready to go. And I'm pretty sure all of y'all are feeling the same way, that you're ready to go. And I just wanted to share this with y'all. Maybe this might, give you some encouragement that we might be going home soon. I know it gives me a little bit more hope that we'll be sooner. But even if it's not, I'll still hang in there because I'm a warrior for Christ, and I can hang in there as long as I need to hang in here and work and do the things that Jesus wants me to do, Joshua, what he wants me to do. And I'm trying to use the name Joshua, but I forget sometimes. But so I use both. But I just love you all, and God bless you all, and I hope this encourages somebody. All right, bye-bye. Oh, and I'd also like to add this. I said I saw the number 4 a lot. Well, if you think about it, Obama is the 44th president, and there's the 4. And then when you look at the Bible code charts, they have the collapse of America, and I'll put a chart for y'all to look at, and it has the it has 44 in there somehow, but it's a skip of 44 letters, and it's just interesting to note that Obama is the 44th president, and it has that in there in this chart also. And I'll add this so y'all can take a look at it. Okay, God bless you all. All right, bye.
And proclaiming the acceptable year of the Lord from now until September 23rd, 2015, Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement.
The planet also means, very concretely, our very survival. We are, all of you know it, on the edge of a climatic abyss. In fact, we have 500 days to avoid a climate chaos.
We have 500 days to avoid a climate chaos. Very important issue of climate change, climate chaos, and we had, I said that we had 500 days to avoid the climate chaos.
The French Foreign Minister said, we have entered into the 500 days of climate chaos, which takes us to September 24th, 2015. What's he talking about? Is he talking about something coming from, is there asteroid cluster on its way? Or is there maybe not to be a deep impact?
Great many changes that the populace of the earth will undergo. A great many changes. But there's really nothing they can do about it. They can wish, hope, and everything else, but it's still coming, and it's going to change just about everything.
Now, are you referring to some type of meteorites or some type of asteroid or something is going to affect the Earth approximately 500 days from now, about the same time he's talking? Now, he made this statement, folks, on May the 13th. 500 days from then is actually September 23rd, September 24th, I believe it is, which is actually the Day of Atonement.
And proclaiming the acceptable year of the Lord from now until September 23rd, 2015, Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement.
I believe the public announcement with the PR individuals was to mitigate a catastrophe. There are 500 days left. There's a 500-day window to mitigate it. But most people have agreed it's far too late to mitigate anything. There's nothing we can do. And it's coming anyway. So you're looking at, Pastor, it's important to let you know that they actually believe in the sixth seal of Revelation.
And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks,
Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand?
They think it could be maybe the sixth seal.
Well, the celestial happenings are on their way. They're very real, and the sixth seal is troublesome.
One of the youngest Steelers fans around is a calf on a farm in Cambria County. At least that's what it looks like.
Yeah, could the markings on its forehead be a sign of things to come? Dave Crawley went to the Steelers locker room today for some reaction.
When the Pittsburgh Steelers march down the field, all eyes are on number 7. The same is true of dairy cows at Valewood Farms in Loretto. The calf dubbed Little Ben was born with a 7 on his forehead, a fact which has not gone unnoticed by Facebook followers. The cow has gone viral, and that's no bull. Some fans think it's a Holstein harbinger of Super Bowl VII, and players are utterly amazed.
Who put 7 on a cow's head?
That's Ben.
That's a cool number. I don't see anything on there.
You don't see the 7?
Yeah.
What do you see?
I see a 7.
This not Photoshopped, is it?
No, not Photoshopped.
I think Ben needs to buy this.
Is that a sign that we're going to the Super Bowl?
Man, I don't know what it is, but it's a good sign.
Let's hope it's not a bum steer.
I see the big 7 on the forehead there. I've never seen a cow like that. That could be a sign from above.
Telling other teams to move over, right?
Yeah, that's it. That could be the sign right there.
A sign that the Steelers are cream of the crop? On the other hoof,
My college number was 7. Could be my cow.
in any case, the big question,
Is that a cow that should be made into a Roethlisberger, or should it be saved?
Oh, Roethlisberger. He should be saved. He should be saved. Straight up.
milking the story for all it's worth and then some. I'm Dave Crawley.
That we may not have next year even to prepare. You believe events could actually accelerate before September of 2015? The door of the last days has opened. The scriptures, Lori, that you just read, Jesus said, all right, here's the first stuff. Here is the earthquakes. Yes. Here is famine. All these things. He said, these are the beginning of sorrow.
That's right.
And that's where we are right now. This is, I believe, the time of preparation, the time to be ready.
I was just doing a study the last 2 or 3 days before coming here, and part of that study brought me to a verse in Genesis, that after I got here, I found out Jonathan Kahn was talking about it, and he was looking at it from a different angle than what I was looking at it. But he was talking about the 7 lean cows and the 7 fat cows and the grains of wheat and the fatted grains of wheat.
And listen, I've got to roll in. Can I roll that and then
sure,
talk about it?
Okay.
You've never seen it before.
No.
And you were talking about it in the green room. So we dug it out. You said God spoke to you about the cows.
Yes.
And this is insane. I love it because God brings things together. Roll that piece from just a few days ago.
That's right. And this I will call this the mystery of the 7th cow. Okay. I've talked about it.
Yeah, we're ready to hear about it.
You're ready to hear that.
Yes.
As a cycle of the rise or fall of an economy, and actually the earliest mention of an economic cycle is in the book of Genesis, and it begins in Genesis 41 where the Pharaoh has a dream. The Pharaoh has a dream, and he sees 7 cows coming out of the river, probably the Nile. 7 cows. And the 7 cows are healthy. The Hebrew means, like well-fed and healthy. And then he says, he saw another 7 cows come up out of the river, and these were sickly, or the Hebrew can mean evil, or diseased, and lean, fat, like starved. They come up out of the river and they devour the 7 fat cows. He's troubled by it. So it says, well, what does this dream mean? He said, well, there's a Hebrew in prison who can discern dreams. It's Joseph. They bring Joseph to Pharaoh, and it says, then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of the Pharaoh are one. God has shown Pharaoh what he's about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years. The 7 heads of grain are 7 years. The dreams are one. The 7 thin and ugly cows which came up after them are 7 years. and the 7 empty heads blighted to the east wind are 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I've spoken to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he's about to do. Indeed, 7 years of great plenty will come throughout all the land of Egypt. But after them, 7 years of famine will come, and the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. And the famine will deplete the land, so the plenty will not be known in the land because of the famine following it, for it will be very severe. This is the first economic cycle mentioned in the Bible, or probably anywhere, and guess what? It's based on 7 years, just like the Shemitah. Same thing. 7 years of abundance, that's the 7 cows, and then 7 years of famine or economic deprivation. And in the middle of that, the change is the 7th cow. It goes up to each year. Each year, the cow represents a year. Each year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When you get to the 7th cow, it's the 7th year. Represents the 7th year and the time when there's going to be a change from abundance to famine. Okay, so that's what you're watching. So now the Shemitah is also the 7th year. The Shemitah is the 7th year. And it also is linked to an economic cessation, just the same way. Now, God gave to Egypt, the first sign in the Bible of the economy, God gave them a warning. And the sign, if you put the two things together, you got cows and you got the number 7. 7 years and cows. Cows and number 7. And so that is this biblical symbol of warning. That is an image, that is a cow that was born a few days before the Shemitah with the number 7 across its head, clear as anything. In the Bible, that speaks of the 7th year there, and this is the biblical imagery of the elements given to Pharaoh and Joseph of a coming economic collapse, which was about to happen, and a famine. It appears now in America. Now, on what day did this sign appear on the Associated Press? When did it appear? It appeared on September 25th, the opening day of the Shemitah.
Oh my, oh my.
Ooh. All across America, I mean, in one form, whoever picked it up, Associated Press, the symbol of the coming of economic collapse or famine, and the very opening day of the 7th year is the symbol. The cow represents the years, the 7 years as in the Bible, and the number 7, and on the beginning of the 7th year. Could it, and what that sign is, biblically, if we just put down the biblical symbols, what that would speak about in ancient times, what happened in the time of Joseph, is not only the 7th year, but the change from abundance to deprivation, and that is speaking of, at least when it appeared, that those symbols appeared to Joseph and Pharaoh, 7 years of famine, or 7 years of deprivation.
You're going to preach about woe unto the shepherds, woe unto the pastors and preachers are not preaching the word. Is God finally had to get to using cows again? I mean, that is a 7 if there ever was a 7, by the way, on that cow. And it's like the cow is sticking his head into your TV screen and saying, "Moo, stupid." And God's wanting to warn us. This all is released.
Yes, the AP released that image on the day of the Shemitah.
Right now, we are in the calm before the storm, and this is so close to an analogy to, we're on the eve of Pearl Harbor, and the warning message is being sent out, but it's not being received.
On this program, one of the things I want to talk about, we're probably halfway through the tetrad, am I saying that right? Mm-hmm. The blood moons, and 2 blood moons have passed. We're approaching another solar eclipse, I believe.
Yes, the next solar eclipse will happen on March 20th. And remember, that's important because the rabbis always say that solar eclipses have to deal with judgment on Gentile nations.
I just want to jump to the chase, first of all. I am so concerned the church is not ready. The world is not ready. That I believe something major is going to happen by the end of the Shemitah year, which will be at the end of, there will be a blood moon at the end.
Yeah, right around that time period, there will be a blood moon in October, and the Shemitah year will end on September 13th of 2015.
Do you think, from what you're studying right now, that God is really controlling the stock market? He showed us every 7 years there's a crash. There's things happening. Have you studied this at all?
Yeah, I'm constantly looking at this and trying to connect the dots. And boy, it's like, where do you go? I mean, here we are approaching March. You know, March will be the next, I see as major significant date. March 20th, the solar eclipse, the judgment of the nations according to the Jewish rabbis. And then, of course, we move to September, and we got the fourth blood moon.
Wait a minute, March 20th. 20th. You think something could happen even on that date?
Well, you know, I have said right along that I believe when you connect the dots, that a great earthquake is going to come before the beginning of the Great Tribulation. In fact, I believe that a great earthquake could literally be the most significant domino that starts pushing all the dominoes down the road to bring us to the Great Tribulation. And I know we're not going to go into the earthquakes today. We've got that as another topic.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting.
I think New Year's Eve, you and I, I'm going to give some new stuff on that day. But I believe the earthquakes, wow, I can't say what I want to say. I don't want to scare people to it. But I really believe within months, major earthquakes are going to shake the earth like God's never not before. Warning us. Then when Jesus said there'd be many earthquakes, and what, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we were having 2,000 and then 4,000 a year. And then we jumped up.
Yes, around the year 2000, we jumped up to around the 20,000 mark, and it stayed consistent around the 20,000 mark until 2013. And in 2013, something very significant happened. We had record-setting events. In 2013, we experienced 89,000 earthquakes in the United States alone. And as of today, I looked it up today.
Today?
Yes. As of today, in 2014, now remember what Pastor just said. 30 years ago, we were experiencing 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 earthquakes a day. As of today, we have had over 113,000 earthquakes this year.
And there's not been a year in recorded history of that many earthquakes.
No. Nowhere even close.
So I think in a couple more days we'll end this year, and I don't know how many you think we'll have by the end of the year.
By the end of the year, we have a few more days. It'll probably be about around 114,000, maybe up to 115,000.
John, does this shake you at all? I mean, I keep preaching Matthew 24, and people don't want to hear it. They don't want to accept it. And I have no other message right now. I used to preach on how to grow your gardens, and I still do that once in a while. But the Bible's filled with good stuff. You go to your church, they're going to teach you that stuff. You need that. How to treat your neighbor, love your neighbor yourself. But that's not my message. My message is the King is coming back. He's coming soon. It's time to prepare. It's time to be ready. It's our harvest time. And the signs. I'm supposed to be someone on the wall sounding a trumpet. And so I'm trying to warn the people. And John, what does these earthquakes, and we're going to get on them later. I keep jumping them back in here. I think God's trying to warn people. But just the fact of these numbers, they're so way out. And the thing is, it's not earthquakes that is the sign of the coming of the Lord, what he said. It's earthquakes in many places, and massive earthquakes. And it's here now.
Yeah. Well, you know what is really a thought that hit me the other day that's really scary to me is the fact that end-time preaching in the church has almost been sanitized out of the church message. You know? And I have literally been contacted by people who have read my book and literally shared it with people in the church and had a home Bible study and were kicked out of the church for having a home Bible study on the end times. And you know, it's like an important mouthpiece for God to warn the church are his prophets. And the prophet message has been sanitized out of the church. And right now, God, through many voices, and we'll talk about this, you know, next couple of days, but through many voices, God is shouting loud, warning, I am coming, and earthquakes in diverse places, and we're talking about massive stuff getting ready to happen. and it's not being relayed to the people in the pews because it's been sanitized out of the pulpit.
And it says right there that his disciples asked him. He said they asked his disciples, the ones that he called at the Sea of Galilee where we stood to be their disciples, to follow him. And then they asked Jesus as he stood on them. He was sitting on the Mount of Olives. Okay, so Sasha, Zach, I mean, imagine that we were right there at the Mount of Olives. Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, and the disciples, his followers, came to be alone with him, and they said, tell us when these things will happen, and what will be the sign that it's time for you to come again and for this age to end. And then Jesus goes on.
Now let's get this straight. This isn't just a prophet. This man sitting with these disciples,
yes,
he is not just a pastor of a local church or a synagogue. Mm-hmm. This is the Son of God.
That's right.
This is the Word
yes.
himself.
Yes. Amen.
This is the one who nothing was created without him.
Exactly.
All right, Lloyd, go on and go down here.
This is New Century Version, so if it seems a little different for you to understand, that's why.
And he talks about all these things.
It says about all these things, and it says, Jesus answered, be careful that no one fools you. Many will come in my name saying, I am the Christ, and they will fool many people. You will hear about wars and stories of wars.
The key here, and I say it over and over again, they said he is Christ, Jesus, the one sitting there. That's the deception. It's not deception just because somebody goes at the airport with this long robe on with bells on the bottom of it and says he's Jesus Christ. That's not deception. We know that's stupidity. The deception is when people say Jesus is Lord, and yet they're telling you to love money and love the things of the world. The Bible calls it another gospel is going to be preached in the last days. And you got a message this week on woe unto the shepherds, and we may get to part of it today, but I don't know. I doubt it, but we're going to try. But one of the big messages God has given John Shorey in the desert is woe unto the preachers. And the preachers, we have false doctrine today. And we've got to get back. So here's Jesus. This story, we go over and over and over the story. He's sitting there. They said, what's going to be the sign of your return? What's going to be the sign of the end of the world, the end of the age? And Jesus goes on, and what does he say
says,
here?
You will hear about wars and stories of wars that are coming, but don't
we've gone
be
over
afraid.
that this week even.
These things must happen before the end comes.
Go on.
Nations will fight against other nations, which in the Hebrew means ethnic.
Listen, did you see the headline of the school that was just shot up last week? Did you see it?
Yes, I did.
The most horrible thing I have ever seen in my life. This is ethnic people fighting ethnic people. That's what this means. Ethnos, I think is the word.
Like, that's what you taught us. The word is ethnos, which translates into ethnic. Ethnic group rising against.
But how many? I don't have that.
There was a total.
I think it's about 145.
There was a total of 145 deaths. There was 100. It was 10 teachers, and the rest were kids.
They burnt one of the school teachers to death right in front of the kids, and then they shot up and killed 145 kids and teachers, and the blood was in puddles of like somebody took buckets of blood and just poured it out. And this is what's going on all over the world. Look what's happening in this country. Rabbis are being murdered in Israel. Yes. People are being killed in this country. Every day, people are being... We almost ignore it. We almost... It's like business as usual. But go on one more quickly, and then we got to get back to John here.
Okay, so again, nations fighting against other nations. Kingdoms will fight against other kingdoms. There will be times when there is no food for people to eat.
And you know what? People are literally lulled. John, didn't God show you that people are being lulled? People are even stopped ordering food now. People because we were slow getting the food. You would not believe how much we've had to refund. It's breaking us. We're in a point because we couldn't get the food shipped. There's a lull right now. There's even a lull of tornadoes this last year. You notice we didn't have that many. We had some, but we didn't have. You know, John. Yeah. You're saying, help me here. that we may not have next year even to prepare. You believe events could actually accelerate before September of 2015?
Well, you know, I was saying 6 months on either side of next September for the beginning of the Great Tribulation.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the Bible says the generation is 70 years, longer if we're stronger. That 70 years from 1948 is 2018. And if the Great Tribulation started in March of 2015, 3.5 years of tribulation would bring us to the Feast of Trumpets, September 2018. 70 years from the rebirth of Israel. If God wants to give us a little bit of grace, and we go into year 71 or year 72, praise God. If God gives us a little bit more time, we need it. The church is not ready for what we're getting ready to go into. You know, so I am thinking that we do have a little bit more time. You know, that it would be more likely the spring of 2016 than the spring of this coming year. But you know what? Just because the sun is shining and just because we're seeing a calm before the storm, I am not relaxing. I'm putting whatever energy God gives me and whatever I can beg, borrow, and steal to go and get resources for what's coming. And you know, I'm not just storing food for my family. I planned into my storage that I'm going to have food for people that are lost, for neighbors that are lost. You know, that's the whole purpose. But you know, going back to Jonathan Cahn and what we just looked at, the other day the Lord started directing me to some verses in the Bible, and one of them was Genesis 41. And I get here and I found out Jonathan Cahn had already been talking about it. And I saw it from a little bit different angle. Listen to this. It says, 7 years of great abundance are coming throughout the land of Egypt, but 7 years of famine will follow them. Then all the abundance in Egypt will be forgotten, and the famine will ravage the land. The abundance in the land will not be remembered because the famine that follows will be so severe. Well, you know, when I saw this, 7 years of abundance, 7 years of famine, the 7 years of famine is a Shemitah cycle for the Great Tribulation. So if the 7 years of famine is the Shemitah cycle for the Great Tribulation, then the 7 years of abundance is the Shemitah cycle before the Great Tribulation. And if the Great Tribulation, according to all these prophetic peoples, not just me and Jim, if they're all saying it's going to start next year in September, if they was right, well then guess what? You got less than 1 year left in the 7 Shemitah cycle of
And then
abundance.
you look at the stock market. Every 7th year, the stock market has crashed, has dipped way down. And the rabbi has shown us these. We are on a course. You know, your book, where is your book? The Window of the Lord's Return. This book, you say, you know, God gave you this book with the timing, and we're in that final days.
We're in the window.
We're in the window, and it's time for people to prepare. The reason the church has turned to another gospel is they have user-friendly theology today. User-friendly churches, they call it. They don't want to ruffle any feathers. This book that you've written, this is the book I found. You sent it to me and invited you here for the first time. And this book has changed so many people's thinking, and to rearrange their theology, to realize that maybe, just maybe, we're going to go through some things. And I came to that conclusion after years and years of study when I couldn't get us out of the tribulation, and we're going to go through some things. I'm convinced that maybe even within this week, we could see major events. I believe the door of the last days has opened. The scriptures, Lori, that you just read, Jesus said, all right, here's the first stuff. Here is the earthquakes. Yes. Here is famine. All these things. He said, these are the beginning of sorrow.
That's right.
And that's where we are right now. This is, I believe, the time of preparation, the time to be ready. Our time is almost gone for this program today. I have so much news, and maybe on tomorrow's broadcast we could share a little more of the current news to bring things up to date. But, for instance, one of the headlines, the U.S. government thinks China could take down the power grid. And I was thinking, you know, China is having trouble right now financially. And what happens, China owns a big hunk of America. You all don't know that, but because we just go, we keep borrowing money. Where do we borrow it from? China, number one. It's like trillions of dollars we owe the Chinese. Yeah. What would happen if they brought the power grid down? We don't know who did it. You know, it could be any enemy put a EMP bomb. The grid goes. Most of the people of America would be dead in a year if the grid goes down. So what happens? The place is collapsing. Who owns it? We've defaulted. Who's our biggest debtor? The one that China. We owe the most money to?
China. Yes.
China. We don't even think ahead. And the FBI warns of possible Iran cyber attacks on U.S. defense and energy. This is another headline, is it not?
That's right.
They're talking about this happening soon.
That's right. This article here, it says the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, has warned U.S. businesses to be on alert for a sophisticated Iranian hacking operation whose targets include defense contractors, energy firms, and educational institutions, according to a confidential agency document. But you have this, and you have on top of that, like you were saying, Pastor, the U.S. government thinks China could take down the power grid. You see, we need to watch China right now. I think that China is going to play a key role in the end time. It's probably more than we give it credit to. I mean, even with this whole Shemitah year, for example, in the second blood moon, what happened on the second blood moon? Remember, the blood moons are for signs and signals, to show us things that are to come. Well, what happened on the second blood moon? China replaced the United States of America as the #1 economy in the world.
All of these events are taking place, and the church is fiddling as Rome burns, or as America is about to burn. It's time to really turn to God. And if we turn to God, God would heal our land, but we're not doing it. But I believe God has had us warn you and warn the people to be prepared for what's coming. Rabbi's convinced that this is the Shemitah year. This is the year to get ready.
Hey everybody, I have 17 reasons here why the summer of 2015 is the biggest watch we've ever looked at. First, as you probably know, both 2015 and 2016 mark the end of a 1260-year period that Adam Clarke wrote in 1825 as the tribulation period. Matthew 24 says, at the end of the tribulation of the days, the stars will fall, the sun and moon will go dark, and the rescue will occur. The Bible says days can also represent years, so it appears the 1260 days refers to 1260 years, which, according to a 19th century author, should end in either 2015 or 2016. Second, 2015 and 2016 appear to be the midst of Daniel's week, according to the recent fulfillments of Daniel chapter 9. Specifically, 2015 and 2016 are the last 2 years of that week, apparently. Third, 2015 is the 70th year from the creation of the 8th king. Revelation 17 says the 8th king will be the last, and Jeremiah 25 says the nations around Judah will serve Babylon 70 years, and at the end of that 70-year period, the whole world will drink the cup of wrath. That cup of wrath is code for the asteroid impact. So we have both the 1260-year tribulation of the days and the 70 years of the UN 8th king ending in 2015. Fourth, 2015 is the year of the sheep and the goat. And once we really start to examine the fulfilled prophecies of the Bible, at least for me, it becomes overwhelmingly clear that it was written by people who actually knew the future. They weren't just seeing visions. So, for example, Jesus and Gabriel knew precise details about the future. So when Jesus used the riddle of the sheep and the goats to describe those who will be rescued and taken to a safe place and those who will stay behind to try to tough it out on the earth, that may have been a reference to 2015, the year of the sheep and the goat. Number 5, June 12th through the 14th this year marks 1 year from the ISIS massacre that started the war, and this ties into the flood story in the Bible and also the chapter in Revelation that talks about the events after the asteroid impact. So you might remember this 40-day pattern that has been playing out since June of last year. Specifically, it started on June 12th through the 15th in 2014, which was our big watch date last year because of the 777 timeline. So everyone knows about the stock market crashes in 2001 and 2008 that both occurred on the Jewish Feast of Trumpets and both on a sabbatical year. And most people know the stock market crash in 2008 dropped exactly 777 points. But what many people don't know is that Hurricane Sandy hit New York City 4 years after that 777, and it was recorded as the worst flood in New York City history. In the Genesis story of Noah's flood, we're told his father Lamech died at age 777 when Noah was 595 years old, and the flood hit when Noah was 600 years old. So if the flood hit when Noah was in the beginning of his 600th year, that would be 4 years after Lamech died at 777. And if Noah was at the end of his 600th year, then that's 5 years after the 777. And finally, if the begatting of Noah refers to his conception, then we add the 280 days of a human pregnancy to that timeline. So what we're looking at here seems to be only part of a larger pattern that started on the 9/11 tragedy. So anybody who's listened to Rabbi Kahn knows about the stock market crashes on the sabbatical years in 2001 and 2008, and they also know the next sabbatical is in 2015, and apparently it's a Jubilee year. So there's only one Jubilee every 50 years in the Bible. You probably already know that. But this adds to that because Hurricane Sandy, the worst flood in New York City history, hit 4 years after the 777, and that represented the beginning of Noah's 600th year. The end of that 600th year would have been the following year in 2013, and since the 777 occurred on the Feast of Trumpets, we can consider the Feast of Trumpets 2013 as the end of Noah's 600th year on this timeline. 280 days later, the length of the human pregnancy ended on June 11th through the 13th, 2014. We looked at all of this in a video I uploaded on February 2014. Back then, I didn't know what the event would be. I thought it might have something to do with the Bible prophecy of the asteroid impact, the falling of the stars, the 7 trumpets. But what occurred on that date was the Islamic State Camp Spiker massacre that was the catalyst for the war against the Islamic State that we've gone into this past year. So while it seems on the surface to have nothing to do with the asteroid, it actually does have something to do with it. The one place in the Bible prophecy that predicts the rise of the Islamic State seems to be in Revelation chapter 9, and Revelation 9 is all about the asteroid impact. It says, "And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit." So some argue that this cannot be an asteroid because it uses the word key, and an asteroid impact crater is not bottomless. I agree there's probably another layer to this, but as we've seen before, these scriptures contain multiple layers of fulfillments. So one of the layers of this is clearly the asteroid impact because it says the smoke that comes out of the pit darkens the air and the sky, and that's the reason the sun and the moon go dark. So Jesus was clear in Matthew 24 that the sun and the moon go dark when the stars fall from heaven, and Jesus referred us to the book of Daniel, and Daniel is clear that the beast will be destroyed by a stone that is cut out without hands. He also describes it as a burning flame, so it's a burning flame stone. Revelation 18 verse 21 is also clear that Babylon the Great will be destroyed by a millstone that is thrown into the sea by an angel. So the texts are talking about a stone that falls from heaven. It's also referred to as the rock in the text. So we all know there are multiple layers in these texts. So the falling star in Revelation 9 refers on one level to the asteroid impact that the texts are clear will destroy Babylon, the great city. But after the star hits and the smoke rises out of the pit, it says locusts come out of the smoke. And this is very strange. It says in verses 7 and 8 that the shapes of the locusts were like horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were, as it were, crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. It says they had the hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And this is a mystery that Joel 2 talks about as well. It's talking about the day of the Lord and the strange people. It says the day of the Lord comes, a day of clouds and thick darkness, and a great people and a strong, there hath not been ever the like. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness, and nothing shall escape them. So we know the day of the Lord refers to the day the asteroid hits, and we know Joel 2 is talking about the locusts here, because in verse 25 it says, I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. So these strange people described starting in verse 2 are referred to symbolically as locusts, and it clearly tells us they appear at the day of the Lord, in the day of clouds and thick darkness. That's what Revelation 9 tells us is the asteroid impact. The locusts come out after the asteroid hits, and the sunlight is dampened out from the smoke or ash from the pit. So the detail about the strange appearance of the locusts is important because it ties into the image that is explained in detail in Genesis 3 and Isaiah 3. It's a technology that alters their appearance. So it seems clear from our previous examinations of Genesis 3 that at the time of the asteroid impact, their image technology will be taken away, and they will no longer appear as beautiful humans, but their true form will be visible. Joel 2 refers to these non-humans as locusts. It says, I will restore to you the years the locusts have eaten. The word locust seems to be symbolic because these people eat away at the earth like a plague. It says in verse 3, the land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. And in verse 8 it says, when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. And in verse 9, they shall enter in at the windows like a thief. Jesus said he will knock on the door, but anyone who enters in any other way is a thief. In 2 Peter 3 verse 10, it says the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night. So Joel 2 is talking about the day of the Lord, the asteroid impact, and the locusts that come out after that. In verse 10, it says the earth shall quake, the sun and moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. So again, in Revelation 9, it says the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke that rises out of the pit, and that pit is caused by the star that falls from heaven. So on one level, it's the rock, the burning stone, the millstone, the falling stars, the asteroid impact. Then Joel 2 verse 16 confirms that the bridegroom will go forth of his chamber at that point, and the bride out of her closet. So notice Revelation 18 confirms that again. It says in verse 21, a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall the great city Babylon be thrown down. In verse 23 it says, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. So that confirms Joel 2 and Revelation 9 are referring to the asteroid impact. This table right here shows some of the connections between Joel 2, Revelation 9, and Revelation 18. So it's clear the star that falls from heaven represents on one level the asteroid impact, and the locusts sound like non-humans that appear out of the smoke. But from our examination of Genesis 3, we know that the texts are indicating that the non-humans are already here. They indicate that it started around 1947 at the time of the feat. But the Bible says they're using an image technology that makes them appear beautiful. But at the wrath, in other words, the asteroid impact, it says that image disguise will be removed. So to the average person, it's going to seem like these locusts appeared out of the smoke of the pit, but in reality, they've already been here since 1947. It's just that people will see them for what they really are after the asteroid hits. But the bride and the bridegroom will not be here at that time. The texts tell us throughout that the rescue occurs at the same time as the asteroid impact. But here's where the Islamic State comes in. Revelation 9 verse 14 says, after that asteroid hits, an army will be loosened in the Euphrates River and kill the humans in the third part of the earth. So I just want to say this really quick before we move on. Verse 14 does seem to be a slight mistranslation because we know the four angels are the ones that hold back the winds when they seal the 144,000. The texts tell us that. So the 4 angels here in verse 14, we know they're the ones that hold back the winds. This verse is telling us that they are going to loosen something. So they're going to loosen those that are bound in the great river Euphrates. So when it says that they were prepared for an hour, a day, a month, and a year to slay the third part of the men. And right after that in verse 16, it says, and the number of the army was 200,000. It's telling us the army is what is going to slay the third part of the men, not the angels. The 4 angels are the ones that hold back the winds while the 144,000 are sealed on the earth. So it's saying here in verses 14, 15, that, and also 16, that the army that is prepared, that is bound in the great river Euphrates, it says the 4 angels will loosen them. And it says that army was prepared for an hour, a day, a month, and a year for to slay the third part of men. So we know from our examination of the 7 trumpets that the trumpets represent the asteroid impact and they occur in one day. The third part of the earth is where the asteroid hits. So Revelation 9 is telling us that the army that comes out of the Euphrates will kill those living in the location where the asteroid hits. And this is after the asteroid hits. And it says the army will prepare to do that for a day, a month, and a year. So we know the Islamic State rose out of the Euphrates River. We also know the Camp Spiker massacre occurred on a biblically significant date last year, and that's what started the war that we're in now. We also know that events started a series of events occurring roughly every 40 days, and that series will end in 2015 on the same exact date that it started on the massacre last year. And this is how it connects to the flood timeline. In the story of Noah, the flood comes in his 600th year, and the flood waters stay on the earth for a full year of 365 days. So there are multiple congruencies this year in 2015 that line up with that timeline that started last year. The timeline here that started on the 777 in 2008 and ended on June 11th through the 13th, 2014, also lined up with the actual date of the flood on the ancient calendar. That started a 40-day period, which led to another 40-day period and another and another. In fact, the 40-day warnings have continued for an entire year, and this next 40-day watch lands on the exact date the timeline started on last year. But that's not all. That final 40-day watch lands on the exact date biblically that Noah exited the ark on the ancient calendar. I'm sorry, I don't know if that's the final watch, but the next one lands on the biblical date that Noah exited the ark. So last year in 2014, Noah's flood date, the 17th day of the second month on the ancient calendar, landed on June 13th through the 15th, and this year the date Noah exits the ark on the ancient calendar lands on the same date, June 13th through the 15th. So again, the ISIS massacre that started the war last year occurred on the exact date of Noah's flood on the ancient calendar. It started a series of 40-day fulfillments that are lining up with the exact date they started on last year, and that date is also the exact biblical date on the ancient calendar that Noah exited the ark, exactly 365 days after the rain started. But also in Revelation 9 verse 15, we're told the army out of the Euphrates will be prepared for roughly a year. So that 1 year period from June 2014 to June 2015, it may be significant. I don't know. But the next watch window is June 12th through the 14th. And that also seems to tie in with these things here. June 13th and 14th was the first Shavuot in 1948 after Israel was declared a nation. We know we're in the 67th year from that, which is the exact length of one generation in the book of Matthew. June 13th and 14th was also true Shavuot on the ancient calendar in 2013. It was the end of Noah's timeline in 2014. And this year in 2015, it will be the date Noah exited the ark, and also the next 40-day watch, exactly 1 year from the Islamic State massacre last year that started the war. June 14th is also U.S. Flag Day, and we remember the U.S. flag was dropped in unison with the lyric, "Our flag was still there," on Obama's birthday at the London Olympics in 2012. That was 2 days after the abomination of desolation stood in the hallowed place. And before we move on to the next event, I just want to point out something about Joel 2, verse 23, where it says he will cause to come down for you the rain in the first month. We don't know if this refers to the rain of fire and brimstone or if it refers to the ancient calendar. The first month of the biblical calendar starts in the springtime, and we know it typically rains in the spring. So from what I can tell, there are at least 3 possible meanings for this verse. Number 1, it may simply refer to the spring rains. Number 2, it may refer to the rain of fire and brimstone, which would be the timing of the asteroid impact. Or number 3, it may be giving us a clue that the standard calendar is off by 1 month. Remember, Daniel said the little horn will change the times, and the texts tell us the country of Israel is the little horn, and the standard Jewish calendar may be coming from Israel. I don't know, but it does not match the ancient biblical calendar, and I've noticed that the rains do not seem to start until the second month on the standard Jewish calendar, which is the first month on the ancient calendar. So that might explain why the Bible tells us to gauge the calendar by the movements of the sun and the moon to make sure that we're on the right calendar. So we do follow that ancient biblical calendar on this channel, and it shows us that the first month has been starting generally 1 month after the standard calendar. So we know the ancient calendar is right because the Revelation 12 sign occurred on the ancient calendar appointment of trumpets in 2012. So verse 23 in Joel 2 may be giving us a clue that the standard calendar created by the little horn is a month off. So telling us when we see the rains, we are in the first month, not the second month. So this is important because the majority of people are following the standard calendar, not the ancient biblical calendar. The standard calendar had the wheat harvest of Shavuot on Memorial Day this year, but the ancient calendar has the wheat harvest of Shavuot on June 20th and 21st in 2015. And that brings up the next point. Number 6, the wheat harvest of Shavuot on the ancient calendar lands on Father's Day this year, which is interesting because Jesus said those who are rescued will go to the Father's house, and that rescue represents the wheat being gathered into the barn. So Shavuot is always a watch for that reason because it's a wheat harvest, but on June 20th and 21st, the last day of spring and the first day of summer this year, and also Father's Day, that's going to be the wheat harvest of Shavuot on the ancient calendar in 2015. Notice Joel 2 makes a reference to the wheat harvest right after it says the rain will come down in the first month. So verse 24 says, and the floors shall be full of wheat. So it says, the rains will come down in the first month, and the floors shall be full of wheat, and I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten, and you shall eat in plenty. So that may be a clue to watch the ancient calendar. Make sure the rain is coming down in the first month. In other words, make sure you're watching the right calendar, the way the Bible says to do it, and count the days from the first month to the wheat harvest, which is the counting of the Omer to Shavuot. So I don't know if that's a meaning of Joel 2, but it could be. And again, this year in 2015, the wheat harvest on the ancient calendar occurs on the last day of spring and the first day of summer on Father's Day. And that's a reference to both the wheat harvest and the rescue to the Father's house. So next, number 7, July 1st marks our entry into the time frame that is 3.5 years before the end of the affliction. So in the last video, we looked at the 430 years of sojourning from Abraham to the Exodus. And in that video, we found that the Bible is clear that the Israelites were only in Egypt for 215 years, not 400. So the question many scholars have asked is, where are the 400 years of affliction as described in Genesis 15? So notice Exodus 12 verse 40 says, the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. But Genesis 15 verse 13 says, he said to Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. So not 430, but 400 years. So the texts are clear the 430 years ended at the Exodus, but scholars argue about where the 400 years of affliction are. So some have said that Deuteronomy 28 has the answer, and I agree. Deuteronomy 28 says, starting around verse 25, that they will be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. They will be oppressed, and their children given away, and the Lord will bring them into a nation which neither they nor their fathers have known. that verse right there, verse 36, they're going to be taken into a nation which neither they nor their fathers have known. So that's not Egypt in Africa. It says they will work in the land but not reap of it. They will serve their enemies in nakedness. And it even mentions the eagle in verse 49. And it mentions a nation of fierce countenance in verse 50, which we know refers to the United Nations from our examination of Daniel. It says, he shall eat the fruit of your land. So here it seems to be talking about the UN presence in Africa. It says there will be plagues and the diseases of Egypt. So that sounds like the pale horse of death and war, the fourth horse of the fourth seal. We talk about that in the video on the 7 seals. The fourth part of the earth seems to be Africa and the Middle East. And those famines started around 1948. So Deuteronomy 28 seems to be talking about Africa here. Then starting in verse 63, it says, you shall be plucked off from the land, and the Lord shall scatter thee from one end of the earth to the other. And then verse 68 says, the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. So we know the Israelites were in Egypt 215 years, but in Deuteronomy 28, it says some of them will go into Egypt again with ships this time. And Revelation 11 tells us Egypt is the symbolic name for Babylon the Great, which we found in a previous video, refers to this whole area in pink here, where all types worship the beast. This whole area is known symbolically as Egypt, and it encompasses America. So Deuteronomy 28 seems to refer to the inhabitants of Africa that came to America on ships and brought into slavery. And it seems to describe this in detail. So if this refers to the 400-year affliction that so many Bible scholars have failed to find, then that affliction should end in the next few years, because they first arrived in America on those ships in 1619. 400 years later is 2019. So if that 400 years is the affliction, then for it to end completely in the next 4 years, it seems something major would have to occur. The final tribulation is 3.5 years, and the end of the 400-year affliction would have to be after, not before, the final tribulation. So 3.5 years before the end of that 400 years in 2019 would be 2015. So subtract 3.5 years, in other words, subtract 3 years and 6 months from January 1st, 2019, and it lands on July 1st, 2015. The window then for the start of the tribulation prior to the end of the 400 years of affliction in 2019 would last from July 1st, 2015 until 3.5 years before the last day of 2019. So subtract 3 years and 6 months from December 31st, 2019, and it lands on June 30th, 2016. So we're about to enter the 1-year window on July 1st this year for the rescue and start of tribulation, if the affliction is to end in 2019. So the next point is number 8. July 4th is exactly 10 years from the day the Deep Impact spacecraft made contact with Comet Tempel 1. Michio Kaku made a statement in the Deep Impact episode of Sci-Fi Science that I thought was interesting, and it may not mean anything, but he was talking about a hypothetical situation in which an asteroid was due to hit the Earth, and he said we might have a chance of moving the asteroid off course if we planted rockets on the asteroid a decade before it was due to hit. So I'm just going to play a few minutes of the episode right here.
90% of the rocks in space are big enough to destroy civilization. And it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. It's official. Earth is in danger. 2, 1, 0. I'm devising a plan to save it. Along the way, I get advice from the sci-fi loving public. We just have to move it. Deflect it. Laser technology is always good. To rescue our planet from Asteroid Armageddon. I think it can be done, and I'm going to show you how. I'm Dr. Michio Kaku. I'm a theoretical physicist and a science fiction fan. Join me as I show you how to make sci-fi science. Well, there goes the neighborhood. If that was the Earth, we're talking about a blast wave that would flatten all of South America. And then the firestorms will engulf the entire planet. And whatever is left will be drowned by a gigantic tsunami. In other words, we just witnessed the death of an entire planet. The Earth is in danger from killer asteroids, and I'm on a mission to save it. Nukes are a no-go. Blowing up an asteroid will doom Earth, not save it. Maybe I don't need to destroy the asteroid. I just need to move it. And I have one thing working in my favor: time. All asteroids have long, predictable trajectories. Strike! If I know what path it's going to travel, then I know by how much I have to change its course to avoid Armageddon. Detonating a nuclear bomb on the surface or on the inside of an asteroid, that could do more harm than good. So maybe there's another way, a more subtle way. Maybe we could simply push it out of the way when the asteroid is still very distant. Some scientists have suggested attaching rockets to the asteroid. If the rockets fired continuously for a decade before it was due to hit, it's veering off to the right. Move over, move over. I think they'd nudge the asteroid just enough to avoid catastrophe.
Okay, so I don't know if you caught that. He said if the rockets fire continuously for a decade, they might be able to veer it off course. So I'll just play it back real quick for you.
If the rockets fired continuously for a decade before it was due to hit, the rockets fired continuously for a decade before it was due to hit. The rockets fired continuously for a decade before it was due to hit. Continuously for a decade before it was due to hit.
Okay, so he's saying, hypothetically, of course, if they were able to plant rockets on the asteroid 10 years before the asteroid was due to hit, then they might be able to move it off course. Well, again, the name of this episode was Deep Impact, and there was a spacecraft named Deep Impact that apparently successfully collided. They're trying to say they released an impactor into Comet Tempel 1. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what they're telling us. But they say that successfully happened 10 years ago, July 4th, 2005. And then the spacecraft Deep Impact lost communication in September of 2013. And in this episode named Deep Impact, he says if they could plant rockets on it 10 years before it was due to impact Earth, they might be able to veer it off course. So that may be telling us something, I don't know. The Deep Impact spacecraft made contact with the comet 10 years ago. So were they expecting an impact 10 years after that in 2015? I don't know. It's possible. And this is kind of strange right here. You may have seen this already. This YouTuber uploaded a clip last year from the TV show Third Rock from the Sun. I'll just play a clip of it right here.
And yet everyone on the planet gets all worked up about these pointless little behaviors, blissfully unaware of the great vaporizing meteor due in 2015. Blissfully unaware of the great vaporizing meteor due in 2015. Of the great vaporizing meteor due in 2015. Blissfully unaware of the great vaporizing meteor due in 2015.
So this episode aired in 1996, 2 years before the movie Deep Impact. that is about a comet hitting the Earth. And at least 9 things depicted in this movie have occurred in real life since its release in 1998. One of the 9 things depicted in the movie that happened later was the landing of a spacecraft on the comet to plant explosives. So again, we know Hollywood depicted the 9/11 tragedy in films and television before the event. So it's possible this movie was a release of the information in a plausibly deniable way. And again, in this episode of Sci-Fi Science named Deep Impact, Michio Kaku says if they could plant rockets on it 10 years before it was due to impact Earth, they might be able to veer it off course. So we've got the Deep Impact spacecraft that reached its destination in July 2005, 10 years ago. The Deep Impact episode of Sci-Fi Science saying we could plant rockets on the asteroid 10 years before it was due to hit, and the Deep Impact movie about a comet hitting Earth, which seems to highlight Obama's presidency 10 years before he was elected. And Obama's presidency is also highlighted in the ancient book of Daniel. Also notice in this Deep Impact episode, he says it's official. And then they show a map of the Americas and they drop the melon onto a portion of South America. I'll just play this really quick.
We're talking about a blast wave that would flatten all of South America. And then the firestorms will engulf the entire planet. And
okay, so you can see Florida is right here. This is where they had the asteroid hitting. That's the top of South America, and we'll look into that later. So next, in number 9 here, we have a large military drill that will be held in 7 southern states from July 15th to September 15th. It's called Jade Helm 15. And I'm going to play this news clip that was just released last night in case you're unfamiliar with this.
Jade Helm 15, a military training exercise that will take place in Texas and 6 other states, has been the subject of rumor and conspiracy across the internet.
The designation of Texas as hostile territory has fueled those concerns, but it is the beginning of it could be the beginning of an invasion of Texas, as some believe, or is it just part of military war games?
Investigative reporter Shaylee Sanders has spoken with local officials and those involved in Jade Helm 15 to get the facts. She joins us now with the latest. Shaylee?
Karen and Abner, Jade Helm 15 is a multi-state Department of Defense approved training exercise that will take place across these 7 states. The leak of unclassified military documents has fueled a lot of rumors and conspiracy theories on the internet. This page especially, you can see here it labels Texas, Utah, and a portion of California as hostile territories. The Army says these were notes used to brief local level government officials on the exercise, and the labels were just for training purposes. However, some residents are still concerned. So you said you've received hundreds of questions about Jade Helm 15. There's a lot of hysteria.
Hundreds of emails, hundreds of phone calls. Some of them have been frantic.
Lubbock County Judge Tom Head, who is the statutory county director of emergency management, says he began looking into Jade Helm 15 a little more than a month ago.
In the course of my investigations, I have not found any concrete verifiable evidence to make me think that it's anything other than a military training exercise. From what I understand, nothing concerning Jade Helm is going to be above Interstate 20.
We requested a list of Texas counties that would be included in the military exercise. They are spread out across the state. The Public Affairs Office tells us portions of the training will take place on public property coordinated with government officials and also on private land volunteered by landowners. And while some are happy to help,
We're training the military and the special operations people specifically to go out and defend our country.
others remain skeptical.
Everybody's on edge. Everybody has a lot of questions. I think the military could do a little better job explaining what their intentions are.
Lieutenant Colonel Mark Lastoria, the U.S. Army Special Operations Command spokesman, spent 2 hours answering residents' questions at a meeting in Bastrop County.
We're going to be doing this, conducting the training exercise safely and courteously. We're not going to interfere with their privacy or their rights with this.
But still, some are unconvinced.
Would the court be offended if I told the colonel that I didn't believe a single word that he just said?
Colonel Astoria told us part of the concern surrounding these exercises stems from the leak of these unclassified documents, which labels Texas as a hostile state.
This is in preparation for the financial collapse and maybe even Obama not leaving office. I mean, I'm telling you, this is so huge.
They're preparing to initiate martial law and maybe even roundups. This is not a joke. It's the real deal.
But according to these U.S. Special Operations Command documents that Colonel Astoria provided, Jade Helm has nothing to do with martial law, and U.S. Army personnel will not be used as domestic law enforcement. Colonel Astoria confirms about 1,200 Army personnel will be involved in this 8-week around-the-clock training that begins July 15th. So why these 7 states? We're told the diverse terrain replicates areas special operations soldiers regularly find themselves operating in overseas and provides realistic training environments in terms of challenging terrain, distance, borders, and population density. But with concerns still lingering, Governor Greg Abbott ordered the Texas State Guard to monitor military personnel movements and training exercise schedules and ensure that safety and constitutional rights of Texans were not being violated. And what does Lubbock County's Director of Emergency Operations advise?
Have a plan. Just be ready for anything that happens. Don't be surprised, but don't jump to conclusions. I think there's been a lot of misinformation. I think there's been a lot of speculation and conjecture, probably because a lot of West Texas people don't trust the federal government. And I think that's kind of fueled it a little bit. But I haven't seen any evidence to make me think that Jade Helm is anything other than just a training exercise.
Okay, so this is going to be held from Florida to Utah, only in the southern states. And my first thought when I saw this was that it might have something to do with the asteroid impact. We were talking about this same basic area in this video last October. I'll leave the link below, but this map was based partially on the Batman map strike zones. The Batman map shows 5 strike zones on what looks like the United States, and this area at the bottom kind of resembles Texas. And if we look closer, we can see it says Sandy Hook and the 35 freeways going through it. So the 35 goes through Texas. It starts in Laredo, it goes up through San Antonio, Fort Worth, and then further north. And so you can see I put the 35 right here. And there's a town called Sandy Point that's right on the coast of Texas, right on that hook of Texas. So I know a lot of people think that this right here represents Sandy Hook in Connecticut, and it probably does on one level, but I think it also represents the coast of Texas, the hook of Texas. So notice it says Strike Zone 1, which personally I think has to do with the asteroid. So this is the same area where the military drill will be held this summer, and it's only about 20 degrees north of the location that the episode Deep Impact showed the hypothetical asteroid hitting, which was right in here. So that episode of Deep Impact aired 5 years ago in 2010, and they showed the asteroid hitting in this area right here around 10 degrees latitude in the northern portion of South America. And you can see Florida is at the 30 degrees latitude. So in the past 5 years since they aired that episode, I don't know, it's possible that their projected trajectory moved 20 degrees north, or maybe not. I don't know, I'm just saying it's possible. Maybe they're covering all their bases 20 degrees north and maybe also 20 degrees south. I don't know what they're doing in South America, but anyway, that military drill, it might have something to do with that. It's possible. But also notice Texas is in red, and notice the circle right here. So this ties into a dream I had about Texas in June of 2013. It's in the playlist Proof the Visions Come True, because the part about the people being held captive in the house came true a year later, but I still think the rest of the dream might be important. In short, I dreamt that I saw a freeway and the words Lone Star State Highway and the number 10, which I guess must refer to the 10 freeway as it passes through Texas. I also saw a smaller highway under that 10 freeway, and it was running parallel to the 10. So I think that might refer to the 90. So in the 90 is right here. So in the dream, there were 2 towns below the 90 on top of each other running perpendicular to the 90. So I didn't really think anything over here matched what I saw in the dream, but this triangle right here, southwest of San Antonio, might be the location in my dream, because these towns, La Pryor, Crystal City, and Carrizo Springs, look almost exactly like what I saw. The towns were, like I said, in a straight line running perpendicular to the 90, and I saw the words next to the towns, but I couldn't remember what they were exactly, but it was something like right here or this one, and I don't know what that meant. Also on the 90 itself, I saw the words, and this one is lonely too, meaning the Lone Star State Highway up here, the 10, and the highway under it, the 90, were alone, not joined together. So I'm just guessing. I actually don't know if the 10 is the Lone Star State Highway. I just was thinking it was the 10 because I saw the number 10 in my vision. So again, I don't know for sure if that's what it is, but I do feel like this area right here looks just, it really looks like what I saw, that the cities that I saw running perpendicular to that highway right here, it just looks very similar. So I feel like this area right here is what I saw in my dream. Again, I don't know why I saw that. I also noticed that it looks like the 90 and the 10 joined together for a while east of San Antonio. So it seems like the dream was not of this area, unless it refers to the area south of the alternate Route 90. Because in the dream, again, it said, you know, this highway is the Lone Star State Highway, and the highway under it was lonely too. So to me, that meant that they were not joined together. So you can see they're joined together right here east of San Antonio, but in my dream, because it seemed to say that they were separate. So we're looking for a location where the 90 and the 10 are separate from each other. So it doesn't seem like it's in this area here, although I could be wrong. The 90 then joins up with the 147 here east of Houston, and then it goes on into Louisiana, I think is the next state over. So it seems like the dream was pointing to a location south of the 90 where the 90 is not joined with another highway. I don't know what it meant, but it showed two vertical towns in a straight line south of the 90. And like I said, this triangle southwest of San Antonio from Laredo to San Antonio to Del Rio looks like the area I saw in the dream, specifically these towns that seem to be La Pryor, Crystal City, or Carrizo Springs, because the 90 is completely alone right here and the towns are vertical right on top of each other, just like I saw in the dream. Again, I don't know what it means, but I just wonder, because of this military drill that they're having, and that's a location we've looked at for a few years now. And I was also shown something in the area of what seemed like Oklahoma, so I don't know. But notice the map they showed on KCBD shows the counties where the drill will be held in Texas. And notice the bulk of those are right here above this curve right here of Texas. So I can't read the names of the counties right here, but it's somewhere in here. So you can see Valverde County is right here on the curve, and right next to that is Edwards. So I'll just show you this map again. You can see this right here looks like La Verde County. So you can see, I'm sorry, Valverde County. You can see that right there. It looks like that's what county that is, and right next to that one is Edwards. So it looks like it might be highlighting Edwards County and Kimball and a few others in this area right here. I'll just show you that again. So it looks like this is Edwards, that might be Kimball. And that is very close to the area that I saw in the dream. You can see Edwards is just north of the 90, right in here, just barely northwest of the two towns that I saw in the dream, Crystal City right here and Carrizo Springs, and the other one is along the 57 right here, and that is La Pryor. So that is very strange to me. Again, I saw this location 2 years ago in a dream. Part of the dream came true a year later, so I don't know if there's more to it or not. I'll leave the link below if you want to watch that video, but the bulk of the military drills in Texas is very close to this location. It's right up in here. So I wonder if that has something to do with the asteroid or comet impact, and they're expecting it somewhere from the lower portion of the United States, or maybe even as far down as the northern tip of South America. Again, I don't know that, it's just speculation, but these bits of information are fitting together like a puzzle for years now, and it's starting to form a picture. So both the location of the drill and the timing of the drill is lining up with what we've examined about where and when the asteroid might hit for years now. And notice the next point, number 10, aligns almost exactly with those drill dates, July 16th through August 13th, and that will be the 10th month on the ancient calendar in the southern hemisphere. And only in 2015, this 10th month will be the 7th year of the king. It's Obama's 7th year, and Obama's presidency was not only highlighted by Gabriel in Daniel 9, but it also seems to have been highlighted in the movie Deep Impact. I'll just play a clip right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Hello, everybody.
So this movie Deep Impact that was released 10 years before Obama was elected seems to have highlighted his presidency, and more specifically, the book of Daniel highlighted his presidency. So 2015 is Obama's 7th year as president, and the 10th month in the 7th year of the king is the time that the bride is taken in the biblical story of Esther. And that 10th month on the ancient calendar in the southern hemisphere starts one day after that military drill starts. Then number 11, the entire month of August is perfectly highlighted by the budding of the fig tree in 1948. In the previous video, we calculated the exact number of years in one generation. Jesus said, Matthew 24, that once the fig tree Israel buds, everything on his timeline will occur within one generation. The only event left on Jesus' timeline in Matthew 24 is the rescue and the asteroid impact, which occurs simultaneously, and one generation is equal to a maximum of 67 years and 79 days according to the book of Matthew. So 67 years and 79 days from the exact date Israel was declared a nation, the fig tree on May 14th, 1948, lands on August 1st, 2015, and 67 years and 79 days from the first Shavuot in 1948 lands on August 31st, 2015. The date the nation of Israel was declared in the spring of 1948 seems to have been highlighted by Jesus as the budding of the fig tree in the springtime, and Shavuot in 1948 seems to have been highlighted by Gabriel in Daniel 9 as the first Shavuot after the going forth of the commandment to restore Jerusalem. So one generation after these two dates lands exactly on August 1st and August 31st, 2015. It perfectly highlights the month of August. And also August is the month that the first ship from Africa arrived in Jamestown in 1619. So August 2015 is exactly 4 years prior to the end of the 400 years of affliction. Number 12, August 2nd, 2015 is exactly 3 years from the abomination of desolation that was placed in 2012. The idol of terror lifted into the hallowed place, the One World Trade Center, exactly 1,290 days after Obama took the oath of office. This was a precise fulfillment of the Bible prophecy in Daniel 9 and Daniel 12, and we know 3 days is significant in the Bible, and days can also represent years. So 3 years from the abomination of desolation Daniel talked about, that Jesus told us to watch for, 3 years from that lands exactly on August 2nd, 2015. So we're not told the amount of time between that event and the escape, but again, 3 days or 3 years is a significant number in the text. Number 13, August 6th through the 9th is exactly 70 years from the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I have a video on the 70 years of Jeremiah and Isaiah where I present the possibility that Japan may actually represent the sinking island of Tarshish, of which 70 years is a key component to the end times prophecy. Number 14, August 16th is the actual date given in the movie Deep Impact that the comet hits the Earth. Again, at least 9 things in that movie have already come true after it was released. Jesus said we won't know the day or the hour, so I'm not saying that's it, but it is a watch, and it is occurring in the month that the one generation highlights. Okay, so now we're going to look at why September may not be the time of the impact, as many are saying. First, September 7th, 2015 is the final day of the one generation from the budding of the fig tree in the spring of 1948. The book of Matthew tells us the maximum number of years that one generation represents in the book of Matthew is 67 years and 79 days. The one generation starts in the spring at the budding of the fig tree, Israel. If that refers to the year Israel became a nation, then one generation from the last day of spring in 1948 ends September 7th, 2015. Jesus said one generation will not pass before the rescue in the asteroid hits. That means it will not occur after September 7th, 2015 if the budding of the fig tree was the spring of 1948. Number 16, Joel 2:32 says the sun will go dark and the moon will turn to blood before the day of the Lord. We know the day of the Lord is also known as the day of wrath, and it refers to the asteroid impact. Some have suggested that the sun going dark and the moon turning to blood refers to a solar and lunar eclipse. 2015 is an important eclipse year because all of the solar and lunar eclipses are occurring on the biblical feast days. According to Mark Biltz, this is rare and won't happen again for another 400 years. It usually occurs over a period of 2 years, and this time it occurred in 2014 and 2015. However, I don't know if this has been pointed out yet, but in 2014, the order of the eclipses did not match Joel 2. He said the sun goes dark first, then the moon turns red. In other words, the solar eclipse is first, then the lunar eclipse. So you might notice in 2014, the lunar eclipses were first, then the solar eclipse both times in the spring and fall of 2014. So it was backwards. But in 2015, the solar eclipses occur first, both in the spring and fall. So in the spring of 2015, we had a solar eclipse first, followed by a lunar eclipse. So it matched the order of the eclipses in Joel 2. And again, it wasn't just any solar and lunar eclipse. They fell on the biblical feast days. So we're in a high watch right now until the end of August because the sun went dark and the moon turned to blood before the time period that we're in right now. The next eclipses occur in September, so once we reach September 1st, it seems we'll no longer be in the period after the eclipses, but instead we'll be in the period before the eclipses. So Joel 2 indicates the asteroid impact will occur after the eclipses. So we could even take this further and count the days between the lunar eclipse of April 4th and the solar eclipse of September 13th. There are 162 days between the lunar eclipse of April 4th and the solar eclipse of September 13th. So if we divide this by 2, we get the number of days that are technically after the sun and moon went dark in April. So if we take 162 and divide that by 2, we get exactly 81. And 81 days after the sun went dark and the moon turned to blood, this spring ends on June 24th. So it might be a little too technical to think June 24th enters into the time period before the eclipses this fall. I mean, I don't know. But once we reach September 1st, we're definitely before the eclipses and not after. So Joel 2 indicates the eclipses will occur before the day of the Lord, not after. But we also know that word in Joel 2, it has multiple meanings. So who knows? I'm not saying this to discredit anyone's theory about the fall feast. I'm just trying to point out that there are a lot of reasons it could also happen before that this summer. And the most important reason for that seems to be that Jesus' one generation is ending this summer. And finally, number 17, Jesus said, pray your flight is not in the winter. There are at least 2 ways to look at this. First of all, it could mean that the rescue in Asteroid will not happen in the winter. And if that's the case, then we also need to consider the southern hemisphere because Jesus said true Israel refers to the whole world. Winter in the southern hemisphere occurs when it's summer in the northern hemisphere. So if Jesus meant that the rescue will not occur in winter, then that means it won't occur in either winter or summer. But that statement, pray your flight is not in the winter, has another possible meaning. It could also mean pray you are taken before the tribulation as opposed to after the tribulation. In previous videos, we found that there are 2 rescues, one at the start of the final 3.5-year period and another after the 3.5 years. The bride or the multitude of all nations goes at the start to the safe place and the remnant go at the end. It says in Revelation 11 that they arise trembling at the end of that 3.5-year period. The texts are clear that the final tribulation lasts 42 months, in other words, 3.5 years. If the bride is taken in the summer, then 3.5 years later would end in the winter. In other words, Jesus may have been saying, pray you will be taken at the start of the tribulation as opposed to at the end. In Luke 21, Jesus said, pray always that you will be accounted worthy to escape all these things. So in Matthew 24, he may have been saying, pray your flight or escape is not in the winter at the end of the tribulation. If that's the meaning, then that could mean that the rescue and asteroid impact will occur in the summer. So those are the 17 reasons the summer of 2015 is the biggest watch we've ever looked at. I tried to make this as brief as possible. I know it's a full hour, but there's a lot of details that I wasn't able to cover in this video. So if you want more information, the whole series playlist, Bible's Countdown to the Asteroid, is linked here, and there are several other videos linked in the description below. Just click on Show More to open up more links on this subject. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's making this research possible and making it possible to get this information out to people. Thank you. And if you like this video and want more of these to continue, please consider providing support. I hope you're all doing well, and I'll talk to you next week.
The Bible code is a set of secret messages encoded within the Hebrew text of the Old Testament. This hidden code has been described as a method by which specific letters from the text can be selected to reveal an otherwise hidden message. Many examples of these hidden messages have been documented in the past. One example is that by taking every 50th letter of the book of Genesis, starting with the first Taw, the Hebrew word Torah is spelled out. The same thing happens in the book of Exodus. Modern computers have been used to search for similar patterns and more complex variants. While both proponents and skeptics accept that such sequences can arise by chance alone in any text, the proponents argue that the examples found in biblical texts are much more numerous or more impressive in some manner than those found in secular texts, to a degree that chance cannot explain. Looking for hidden clues in the text of the Hebrew Bible is a lot like doing a complex crossword puzzle. It can only be done with the help of computers, and it can take many hours to look for these hidden words. It is important that one knows the Hebrew language well in order to find hidden Bible codes. A friend of mine pointed me to a website that has many Bible codes downloaded on the site. After looking carefully at these Bible codes, I have come to the conclusion that I believe these codes are real, and that the Lord is trying to tell us something in these last days through them. I have chosen about 30 of these charts and would like to go over them briefly with you. I am not an expert in Bible codes and have not done a lot of research into this field, so if you have questions about these charts, it would be best to click on the links here to go to the website that has the codes or to the original finder of the codes, as I will be unable to answer your questions about these charts. I mostly just wanted to make you aware of these charts, and you can decide for yourself if you think that these Bible codes are real and are relevant to your life. I believe that Daniel's 70th week started in the fall of 2009, and that we are now in the 6th day of Daniel's 70th week, rapidly approaching the 7th day, or Sabbath, that will start on the Day of Atonement in 2015, when the Jubilee year is proclaimed. What has actually convinced me of the validity of these charts is that both the one who is finding the codes and the one publishing them on his website are of the belief that the final 7 years will most likely begin in the fall of 2015. This means that if they were simply making up these findings, they would be putting the years 2017, 2018, 2019, and so on and so forth within these charts in order to support their theory. However, as you will soon see, the charts mostly point to the years 2015 and 2016, with no mention of any year past that. In these charts I'm about to show you, the year 2015 is found 28 times, and the year 2016 is found 10 times. Also, the year 5776 is found twice, which is the Jewish year that starts in the fall of 2015 and lasts until the fall of 2016. The years 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, etc. are not found at all. This is important because if the final 7 years were actually to start in the fall of 2015, Surely the Lord would have put these years in these codes as well, since they would involve the 7 years of tribulation that most Christians believe is still to come. But what we do find hidden in the codes is the word year, hidden numerous times in these charts. I believe this is because the judgment has been shortened to 1 year, which is the day of the Lord, or the final day of Daniel's 70th week. So let's look at these charts. I cannot finish them all in one video, so this will be a 2-part video series. I realize the pictures are not clear, so I have put the link for you to open them while we are looking at the words together if you would like to see the chart more clearly. So let's start with the chart called the Rapture. Here are the words that have been hidden within this chart. 2015, 2015 to 2016. Moed is found 8 times. Holy of Holies is found 3 times. For His Bride is found twice. Shemitah, Teshuvah, Atonement. Rapture is found 3 times. Comet, Appearance is found 2 times. The Redeemed, I am the Lord thy God. The Messiah, Yearning, and Savior. The next chart is called God's Appointed Times, and in this chart we find these words hidden. Yom Kippur is found twice, which is the Day of Atonement. 2015. Jubilee is found twice. The Rapture, the Harvest, the Arrival, Glorious, Passover, Rosh Hashanah, a Harvest, Yeshua, the Resurrection. Shemitah is found twice. The word 7 is found 3 times. Rose up early. Behold the Lamb. Messiah is found 3 times. Gathered them is found twice. Comet. Sukkot. The life is in the blood. Yom Teruah. Gentiles. Trumpets is found twice. The remedy. The prostitute. The Moed. Unleavened bread. Sukkot. Altar. Fire of God from heaven. War. Redeemer. Glorious. Fire from heaven. House of God. The fall of the king of Babylon. Concealed, and Elijah. The next chart is called Messiah and Elijah. We find the word 2015 2 times. Jubilee 2 times. Moon days. Blood. End of days. Messiah and Elijah. And the snake comes. 7 days. Shemitah. The evil enemy. Barak. President. And Yeshua. The next chart is called the Fire from Heaven. Here are the words we find hidden in this chart. The Mahdi, exposed, is found 3 times. Fire from heaven. Shofar. Enoch is found 3 times. America. Jubilee. The Jubilee. Mountain of fire is found twice. The fullness. Tsunami. Nation of Gentiles. Gentiles. Repentance is found twice. Valley of the Raphaim. Elijah is found 4 times. He is a Jew, the prophet, to Israel, those who remain. Fire that everyone points to. Nations is found 2 times. The watchman. Terror is found 2 times. Wormwood, the rapture. Warning, 7 days. Rapture. Ephod, the teacher. Prophet, the testimony. 10 oil trees. The destroyer. Yeshua. According to 2 witnesses. Purification. Chabad will see dark heart. Comet. 2015. Children of Israel. Warning is found 2 times. Shemitah is found 2 times. United States. Wormwood. My servants the prophets. And repentance is found 2 times. The next chart is called the Fall of America. In this chart we find the words China 3 times, sodomy 2 times, Islam. 2015 is found 3 times. Obama is found twice. America is found twice. Industry fails. The abortions is found 2 times. fall of USA, judgment is found 4 times, and war. The next chart we see is entitled The Rapture in Leviticus, and we find these words hidden in this text. First of Tishrei, Yom Kippur, 2014, the struggle, God's appointed time to escape, repentance, the bride is found 2 times, the appearance is found 5 times, Yeshua, the woes, the atonement, the silence, holy, the rapture, completed is found 2 times, matzah, the gathering together, 2014 to 2015, the Messiah, the escape, the awakening. The next chart is called the Son of Perdition 4, and in this text we find the words hidden. Obama is found 2 times. The beast is found 4 times. America, Islam, the president, 2014 to 2015. King of Babylon, Antichrist, 666, and exposed is found 2 times. The next chart is called the Collapse of America. We find the word Ebola 4 times. 2015 is found 3 times. United States is found twice. End of days is found twice. Shemitah, Obama, which has a skip of 44 letters. The judgments of Jehovah, Messiah, Yeshua, coming war, the shaking, house of Yahweh, comet, heated evil in the sight of Yahweh, land of trouble and anguish, blood moons, collapse of USA, abortions, Islam, coming war, the economy. The next chart is called Plagues Unleashed 2. We find the word Obama is found 3 times, President twice, Ebola, Pharaoh, Dallas, the troubles were created, FEMA is found 2 times, Duncan is found twice, 2016, coffins, Liberia, United States, uncleanness is found 2 times, of sin, Shemitah, Passover, fire chambers, 3-year-old in Athens, of his captivity, Elijah and bowls. The next chart we see is called the Third Temple, and these are the words that are encoded in this chart. Son of Perdition, Obama is found 5 times. The abomination, is completed is found twice. Jubilee is found 4 times. The beast is found twice. The cursed, Netanyahu is found twice. Islam, the eclipse, Leviathan is found twice. 5776 is found twice. Pharaoh, the blood moons, rebellion is found twice. I will continue, the deception, the appearance, rapture, the destroyer, Third Temple, from the beast, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you, and the beast. The next chart is called End of Days, Apocalypse 2. Here we find the word Israel is found 16 times. Bride, the gathering, the Vatican, the resurrection, wonders is found twice. Signs, the rapture is found twice, 2014, 2015, 2016. War, is completed is found twice. The threshing floor, Passover is found twice. Obama, the gift of encryption. Iran, the bride is found twice. To take, signs, mighty king shall rise. The apocalypse, Rosh Hashanah, to take, to gather is found twice. For his bride is found twice. Netanyahu, the reaping, send in the threshing, shall tread down, blood of men, comet, year, Yeshua, God's anointed, wormwood, angel, Bethlehem, blood moon, sickle, the temple, and Messiah. The next chart is called Apollyon and the Abyss. And we find these words encoded in this passage. The beast is there 6 times. 2015 is there twice. Tamiel is twice. Sheol is 4 times. Samiel is twice. Elohim is found 5 times. The destroyer, the abyss, is there 6 times. Abaddon, Nephilim is twice. Beast, and Ramiel. The next chart is called Comet Sighting Spring. We find the word woe hidden 3 times. 7 thunders, 2015. Torn in pieces, United States. Stones of fire is there 3 times. Judgment is there 3 times. Worlds, 2015 to 2016. Mountain of fire. The star is found twice. The angel is found 3 times. Consumed is found twice. Comet is found twice. Mars is twice. To strike, the destroyer is found twice. He will smite. There is death because of. Comet 2013A1. Collides is found 3 times. The Vatican. Poison is found twice. The destroyer. Destroying, he will smite. Shattered into pieces, ablaze. Sighting spring. An assessment, the comet. Judgment is found 3 times. Destroying, worlds, wormwood, consuming, and astonishment. I wanted to make a quick comment about this one. It seems like this is pointing to comet sighting spring, possibly coming back around and affecting the Earth, or it could just be pointing to sighting spring as an example of what's going to take place on the Earth, just as it came very close to Mars. Maybe there's another comet that's coming very close to the Earth that's going to affect the Earth in 2015 to 2016, and it may or may not be sighting spring. The next chart is called the fullness of the Gentiles, and we find the words 2015 hidden twice. The rapture, fullness of the Gentiles. Gentiles is there 3 times. Shemitah, the eclipse. Jesus is found twice. Yeshua, the completion. Yahweh will save. America, Elijah, we longed. A comet, his heart loved her. The watchman, Messiah, United Nations, United States. Barack Obama is found twice. Netanyahu is twice. God of my salvation. Bride is found 3 times. Overthrow, USA, Yahweh, the church, grace and truth. The next chart is called the Tree of Hope, and in this we find the Harbinger is hidden 3 times. Tree of Hope. Passover is there 3 times. End of days. Shemitah is found twice. 2015. For a disabled. Barak. Comet. Moed is found 6 times. The word 7 is found twice. Children of Israel is found twice. Died. Abomination is found twice. Judgment is there twice. Mercy seat. America. And people. The next one is called the Restrainers, and we find these words. 2016. 7 is found 3 times. Thunders is found 3 times. The Fallen is found 3 times. The Pit. Michael is found 3 times. Michael the angel. Ramiel is found twice. Samiel or Satan. Asael, Uriel, Somiel, Shlemiel, Raphael, Meshiel, Uzazel, Raphaim, Abaddon, scorpions, demons. 4. River Euphrates, Watchers is found twice. Angels, the Fallen, Pharaoh, King, Time, Angel, Son of Darkness, the Restrainer, and we blessed from heaven. Enoch, 3 days. Shackled, demons are bound. Sheol, and he is a pope. Scorpions, locusts, and time is found twice. The next one is called the Tribulation, and it has the words encoded. United States is there 3 times. Wrath of God is 3 times. Homosexuals. Egypt is found 3 times. Warfare is twice. Homosexual. Comet is found 4 times. Year is found 3 times. The plagues. Global is found twice. Perversion, tribulation, annihilation is found 3 times. Abortion 3 times. Canada, atomic, judgment is there twice. The rapture is found twice. Cannibalism, China is found twice. India is there twice. Russia, Sodom is found twice. British, wrath of God, and famine. The next chart is called the Lord of the Flies, and we find Obama mentioned 7 times. The President is found 3 times. United States is found 3 times. From the Wrath is found twice. From the Beast is found twice. From the Abortions, Leviathan, Lord of the Flies, and Moabite is found twice. The next chart is called the Plagues Unleashed, and we find the Plagues Unleashed 2014, 2015. United States, America, 7 days is found twice. Bowls is found twice. 7 candlesticks. Passover, Pharaoh, Obama is found 3 times, and Shemitah. The next one is the Nephilim genome hybrids, and we find the years 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016. Genome from the beast is found 3 times. From the Anuak hybrid, the Nephilim, Obama is found twice. Nimrod, Apollo, Raphaim, and the dead. The next chart is called the Pope Unveiling of the Harlot, and in this chart we find the words encoded. War is twice. Barak, Obama is found 5 times. Nephilim, Shemitah is twice. Holy Temple, wickedness is found 3 times. False is there twice. Prophet, witness, the Pope is found twice. Demons, Jesuit, judgment is found twice. From the beast is found twice. Rapture, the rapture is found twice. The harlot, King of Babylon, justice, 2016 is found twice. The light returns, gathered up, Jubilee, the king, sons of Yeshua, third temple, wisdom, which those are remain and are alive. Messiah, Pharaoh, the eclipse, Nephilim, Leviathan, Begley, sons of Shalom, my name is Perversion and Abaddon. The next chart is called the 7th Tetrad, and in this chart we find these words encoded. The eclipse is there 3 times. Blood moon, 2015, 2016. Israel, Passover, behold the days are coming is found twice. Nations is found twice. War is found twice. The angels, Absalom, Ishmael, indeed Barak, home. President is found twice. House of God is twice. The beast is there twice. The Pope is found twice. The Vatican, Netanyahu is found twice. Death methods, DNA, Shemitah is found twice. From ancient times, the fallen, Obama is found 3 times. Judah follows, in the coming days, in me is found 3 times. America, Yehoshua, Kaduri, Jerusalem is found twice. Barak, abomination, house of Israel, the rapture, the third temple, Hillel, and the 7th Tetrad. The next chart is called the Shemitah, the final warning, and in this section of the scriptures we find these words encoded. The nations is found 2 times. The harbinger is found 3 times. Jonathan, Khan is found 3 times. Shemitah, 5775, which is this year right now. 2015, war, judgment is found 2 times. The collapse, America is found twice. Israel, goats, Michael, Canada is found twice. United States, the eclipse is found 2 times. The angel, 7 days. The fury, sheep, comet, olive trees, the altar, Enoch is found twice. End of days, the nations, and fire upon the altar. The next chart is called the Son of Perdition, number 5, and we find these words encoded. Revealed, the prince, the Mahdi is found twice. America, Barak is there twice. The president is found 4 times. From a far country is there twice. will make a covenant. Obama is found 3 times. Antichrist, 666, exposed, and wickedness. And the next chart is called Mystery Babylon, and we find Obama 5 times. Vatican, United States, defiled is found twice. The Templars is found 3 times. Wickedness is found twice. Fornication is found 6 times. Homosexual, abomination, from the beast is found 3 times. The Pope is there 4 times. Islam, Mystery Babylon, perversion, the Mahdi, and is defiled. And the next chart is called Antichrist in the book of Daniel. And there we find the president 3 times. Obama is found 5 times. Perdition, the Mahdi, United States, from the beast, Islam, the 4th beast. The beast is found 3 times. Revealed, exposed is there twice. The Pope is found twice, and male goat. The next chart is called the Atomic Holocaust, and in this portion of scripture we find these words encoded. World War. Perez, the ambush, 2014, is found 3 times. Shimon, invasion, global, annihilation is found twice. Obama is found 5 times. Iran is found 4 times. Israel is there 8 times. Egypt, North Korea, China, to strike is found twice. The bomb, Chinese, Hamas, shockwave, world war, sword bathed in blood, Jerusalem, ambush, 2013, United States is found twice, Russia is found twice, and Islam. And the next one is called the Covenant with the Many, and in this portion of scripture we find these words encoded. Israel is 14 times. Atomic Islam, behold the days are near. Shemitah is found twice. Abbas, Kadima, Perez, Obama is found 5 times. Mars is there twice. Mahdi, Pharaoh, king of Egypt. The allowing of one fire. Judgment, war is there twice. Temple is 3 times. Covenant with many, lightning, orthodoxy. Rouhani, king of Babylon. Netanyahu, Ishmael of the land. Happened on my Sabbath. USA, Khamenei, 2015 is found 3 times. 2016, Mofaz, United States, comfortable, Iran, devouring fire, the rivers dried up, the Pope, abomination, blood moon, Gog, and Magog. And the next one is called Abomination of Desolation, and in that scriptures we find these words encoded. Mahdi is found 4 times. Behold, the days are coming. Netanyahu is found 3 times. Israel is found 5 times. Obama 3 times. The gathered up. Shemitah is found twice. A state of Satan. Ishmael is found twice. The Vatican, the Nephilim, the temple. The hidden ones is found twice. Abaddon. The Caliphate, Satan, Atomic, 2016. Abomination of Desolation. Standing, America 2 times. The blood moons, 3rd temple, Barak is found twice, president, the plan, guillotines, the Pope, of their abominations, abomination, the harlot, king of Babylon, Pharaoh, vengeance of the Yahweh. To sum all of this up, I would say that I personally believe that these codes are being revealed right now at this time in history to help confirm what many of us already know is coming over the next 2 years. Daniel 12:4 says, But you, Daniel, roll up and seal the words of the scroll until the time of the end. Many will go here and there to increase knowledge. There are things hidden within the scriptures that are meant to be unsealed to us in these final days, and the Lord is unsealing the prophecies to us as they are being fulfilled right before our eyes. This is why Jesus told us to watch, because the prophecies are not being fulfilled in a way that most people thought they were going to be, and this is why most believers are sleeping and completely unaware of the times in which we live. I want to again emphasize to you that in these charts I have just shown you that 2015 is found 28 times, and 2016 was found 10 times, as well as 5775 and 5776, which just began last month and will go until October 2016. We are living in exciting days. Keep pressing into Jesus. Everything is about to change.
I have seen the future, brother. It is murder. The next 2 years are going to be like nothing you can imagine.
Hello everyone, welcome to Freedom Fighter 2127. So the first thing I want to say is I apologize for not getting any videos out lately. I have been swamped with trying to keep up with Google and Facebook's new API systems or whatever the hell they're doing. So I had to go through and update everything, changed a few things on the website, made it all a little bit faster. Unfortunately, I've missed some pretty key articles at getting them out, so I'm going to do my best to get those out tonight because I don't know if you guys have seen them all. But I'm going to start with these two, and then later on I'll go over what NSA is doing. Explosions rock Michigan neighborhood as U.S. Army urban military training exercise begins. So, this is tied to Jade Helm, and the question is, it's in Michigan, but Jade Helm is supposed to be in the South. See, we can go ahead and throw away the original map, because that's not the map. The map is the entire continental United States of America. Because Maryland's chimed in, Michigan's chimed in, Missouri's chimed in, Indiana's chimed in, and a host of other states have chimed in that were not on the original map. And I bet you if you ask an official, oh, we're not part of Jade Helm. Oh, but you're doing an interagency mass drill. And of course, it's scaring the residents. Of course, it's shaking the neighborhoods with explosions. A 10-day U.S. Army urban military training exercise has begun in Flint, Michigan, with explosions rocking neighborhoods and scaring residents who had no idea what was actually happening. With less than 3 hours between a city press release and the beginning of the exercise, residents were left in the dark about the urban military training until the last possible moment. So, until the last possible moment, we will not know the actual scope of what Jade Helm really is about. We do have an idea, and we know it's got something to do with tracking technology and basically a psychological war and a ton of military movement that is completely uncalled for. So, I mean, supposedly, all this military movement is normal. Military on the streets training to fight constitutionalists in riots is completely normal. No, we're training for other countries. Yeah, right. Because of the words that the role players are saying, it is definitely not just, it's definitely not overseas. It's only just for the United States of America. And you can hear for yourself. There's plenty of videos about on that exact topic and in the actual riots and stuff, or the riot training drills, I should say. It was like a big, huge explosion. It shook my whole house. It shook the ground. I mean, it was loud. It blew up the whole sky or whatever. It was like 4 or 5 big bangs, local resident Annette Humphrey told WNEM News. According to MLive.com, a city press release on the training said, elements of the U.S. Army are conducting training June 1st to the 12th in designated parts of southeast Michigan, including the Flint area. The urban training is conducted at a closed junior high school and complete... Whoa. We just got something there. A closed junior high school. What is closed lately? Walmarts. That's admission. That they're using closed buildings as places to stage drills. Also, I've got a exclusive footage on the inside of one of the Walmarts, and I'll try and get that out later tonight as soon as I can. The urban military training conducted at a closed junior high school and complete with sounds you would normally only hear in a war zone. Alright, let's move on from this one. Michigan's been rocked, let's call it that way. Urgent Jade Helm 15 military drill update, mass casualties expected. Many have warned about the upcoming martial law / World War III Jade Helm 15 military drill. What few fail to recognize is the scope of this training. The scope is now virtually spread to almost the entire USA. Folks in Maryland are receiving credible information from law enforcement stating that the drill begins in June. So we've gone from July to June. Interesting. The question is also raised in Maryland, wait, Jade Helm 15 military drill is supposed to only be in the Southwest? Nope. Just how many states are involved in this drill? Just like Obamacare and other tyrannical moves made by the government, It's got that wait-and-see surprise going on here. All right. Washington County Sheriff's Office, Maryland. Media release. On June 14, 2015, beginning at 6 p.m., a multi-agency, full-scale emergency exercise will be conducted at the Valley Mall, Hagerstown. The purpose of this exercise is to evaluate the response of police, fire, and medical personnel during an emergency event. The better trained our emergency responders are, the more effective they will be during true crisis situations. There will be numerous emergency vehicles and personnel in the area during the exercise. Please remember this is only a training exercise. Yeah, just like 9/11. The Washington County Sheriff's Office would like to thank the community and businesses for their continued support. Let's scroll a little bit further here. Yesterday we got pretty credible evidence that Operation Jade Helm 15 has been moved up 1 month in advance. Why? That's the only question. Why? Why has it been moved up? If it's just a drill, it's set date and time. It doesn't move unless something got exposed that wasn't supposed to get exposed, and they have to move up for their plans. Because our slave masters has lost the element of surprise. Click here for story. I don't know why I read that, sorry. Many people who'd never heard about Jade Helm 2 months ago, and who laughed about it when they did, have started taking the threat seriously and are not laughing anymore. SC spotted. One of my guys, truck driver, sent it to me. What the heck is this about? Mass casualties? What are they expecting? Apparently with some 10 to 15 trucks, Jade Helm 15 military drill. Chester County Mass Casualty Unit. Excuse me? Now, wait a minute. Hold the phone. We've been told it's just a drill. There will be no injuries. There will be absolutely nothing going on. If you hear or see my guys, they're doing something wrong, according to the Satanist that came out and spoke about the military drill. Also, that they're going to need medical teams on the scene just in case. I didn't know medical meant mass casualty. Did you? Because that's a bit odd. Mass casualty units. And this isn't only in Chester County. It's also in Indiana. Portable mortuary units have been ordered. I'm not predicting anything. Let me get this off. Let me get this out in the open. I'm not predicting anything. I don't want to. I don't plan to. But what I'm seeing, it's not fitting the description of what they're saying. And when they say it's just a drill, why are we having mass casualty units and portable mortuary units, which are used in the event of a disaster, show up? Spotted on the streets, everywhere. What are they preparing for? We've got to ask the questions. Because they're doing something. We can take a lot of guesses, a lot of estimated and calculated guesses at what they're truthfully doing. But we won't know, just like it said before, until a moment before. There's a couple videos there. This is the IntelliHub one. This is my article. I wrote this one. This came, I believe it was from Facebook. I can't quite remember. I think it was posted on Facebook. But anyways, that's all the news I've got for right now. We obviously have a very interesting drill coming up here shortly, and we don't know what it is. And that's alarming because there's a lot of questionable activities that are being taken or being done and committed by our military. And so it is completely okay to ask questions. It is completely okay to make guesses. And I know a lot of us have come up with quite a few different answers, especially a lot of people on YouTube, and that's great. We can guess so much until a moment before. That's kind of what I want to leave you with, is what do you guys think is going to happen a moment before? Thank you all for watching. Please check out the websites freedomfighterreports.com and socialexodus.net. I'll leave both the links in the description so you guys can check out the information and share this. Please make this viral, and please, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, please do so. One more thing. I have made now also a backup YouTube channel. It is called Freedom Fighter Reports. That's the channel name. I'll leave a link for that as well. That way you guys can go subscribe to that one. in case this YouTube channel does get taken down. It got taken down last summer as well. This particular one, Freedom Fighter 2127, we had to go to a whole different name. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. But in the event it does, subscribe to the website. We'll keep you updated. God bless and carry on.
On 6 December 2011 at 12:45 p.m. I was called by the Lord to come and meet him. This was during the conference that was going on. So I stole myself away from the conference and went to my room. And as I entered into my room, I saw two mighty angels standing there, and they beckoned me to go to the balcony. He said, "The Lord is standing there. Go and meet him there." So I went to the balcony and I saw the Lord Jesus Christ standing very regally, and he beckoned me, "Come and stand beside me." And when I stood, he said, "Look at my beautiful city." So I looked around from the hotel, high rise, you can see the nice, beautiful city. As I was watching, suddenly there was a huge explosion. A bomb dropped and a building exploded. Another bomb dropped, another building exploded. The whole city was gone up in smoke. War planes were flying here and there. And the Lord Jesus said, "My city will suffer the pain of war." Then the angels were standing by. They said, "In the war, Israel will put up stiff fight amidst heavy losses." A political trap will be laid for the city to be captured. And Israel's best friend will betray her. Israel has only one best friend, and her best friend will betray her. If you have ever read Shakespeare's plays, one of the plays is Julius Caesar. And Julius Caesar had a best friend called Brutus. Towards the end of the play, the ministers will concord a plan to assassinate Julius Caesar. And somehow they will bribe Brutus to be part of their company of assassination. And Brutus and Julius Caesar were the best and the thick of friends. And Julius Caesar trusted his life in Brutus' hands. When all these other guys came and stabbed Julius Caesar was still standing boldly and fighting, And then finally Brutus came and he laid his dagger into Julius Caesar's flesh. And Julius turned around and said, "You too, Brutus." And he dropped dead. What killed Julius Caesar was not the stabbing from all these other guys, but the fatal wound from his best friend. Fatal wound, the betrayal by his best friend, totally killed him. If not, a mighty man of Julius Caesar cannot die like that. But the betrayal by his best friend totally broke his heart to pieces. In the same manner, the political trap that will be laid for Israel, her best friend will lay that trap. And she will be betrayed by her best friend. Then the son of perdition, her best friend, will come to offer peace. land for peace deal. This happened once in history. After the Six-Day War, the UN Security Council passed a resolution 242 made on November 22, 1967, a land for peace agreement. When this will be done very soon, Daniel chapter 9 verse 27 will be fulfilled. It will be fulfilled in the war. Then the angels who were standing by said to me, even now the son of perdition is making plans with the beasts for this to happen. UN will gather the nations to force Israel to divide Jerusalem. This has been prophesied in Amos chapter 7 verse 17. You know, when this word was spoken to me, in a vision I saw the Israeli Prime Minister desperately hoping and trusting their best friend will stand by their side to help them. He will be so helpless. He will be like in a cornered position, not knowing what to do. He can't stand up and declare that Jerusalem cannot be divided anymore. He is so helpless. In the midst of the helplessness, the best friend comes with a political trap, and the Israeli Prime Minister will trust their best friend and accede to the demand, not knowing that it was a trap. Now, what will be the aftermath of dividing Jerusalem? It will be divided. What will be the aftermath? Great earthquakes will take place in many places around the world, especially in the nations that will be involved in creating, conniving this plan to divide Jerusalem. It will be followed by great tidal waves of tsunami coming to cause great devastation. You know, when these words were spoken prior to the prophetic conference that we conducted in Egypt near Mount Sinai last December, I was fasting for 3 days up on the mountain prior to the conference. And one morning, I was sitting by a rock, sipping a cup of tea and meditating the word of God, and suddenly I saw an open vision right before my eyes. I saw a mighty angel with a long drawn sword in his hand, and he stood before me speaking all these words, and then he said, this is what will happen to the best friend that will betray Israel and divide Jerusalem. When he spoke those words, I saw this map of US, like in a 3-dimensional, you know. It appeared right before my eyes, beside the angel, and he took the sword and pierced right into the heart of US and cut into 2. He said, likewise will this nation be divided as Jerusalem will be divided. Cut the land into 2, exactly in the center.
2008, you had astonishing a vision, would it be?
I don't dream a lot. but there are times that I know that God's given me a God dream, and this was a God dream, and I'll make it brief. First of all, I dreamed that I was suspended over a river, and I thought it was a river down by my house in Alabama. And I looked at the river, and immediately I was thinking, well, what am I doing looking at the river? You know, just there was a tranquil river flowing. And all of a sudden that river went out of sight immediately. Just, I couldn't see the bank on either side. It was just like an ocean. And immediately I was taken up and I was transferred into an old school building, like a one big room school building. And I was running through that school building, me and another guy from my church. And that building started bucking like a horse. It just started bucking. To the point in my dream that my teeth was clapping. And my teeth was hurting in my dream because my teeth was clapping so hard. And I looked and I saw that guy flipping around in the room, and I thought, well, if he's flipping like that, I must be flipping like that. And so when the dream was coming to a close, I saw two words, and it looked like these words was on like an old Spanish map of antiquities. I saw the word Indianola, and I saw the word Europa. So when I woke up, I was shaking so hard, it was like I had a hard chill. And so my wife, I called her from the other room, and she came in there and held me while I was just shaking. And she said, what in the world, honey? I said, Winston, I've had a dream, Brenda. And I said, get on the computer and look up Indianola. So she looked up Indianola, and there were 5 of them, but 2 had been destroyed by hurricanes. So there was one in Mississippi, there was one, I think, in Texas, and there was one in Illinois. But when I saw Indianola, I saw a line going from Indianola that way toward a little dot, a little bitty tiny dot called Europa. The thing that let me know which Indianola it was the way the line left Indianola and went toward Europa. It didn't come from Texas. It didn't come from Mississippi. It was the one in Zion. It was the one near Illinois.
Yes.
Near Illinois. And the way the line went from the one in Illinois, it went that way toward Europa, Missouri. Went to the right a little bit, slightly to the right. So when she looked them up on the map and I saw that, I didn't know what it meant. I told a preacher friend of mine that, and he called me back later that day and he said, John, I have put Indianola on the computer and I've put Europa on the computer. And he said, guess what? I said, what? He said, that line and those 2 cities is exactly the New Madrid Fault. He said, that's exactly the New Madrid Fault. He said, you can superimpose that line over the New Madrid Fault. So I knew then that the Lord was showing me that it was a New Madrid Fault erupting. That thing was bucking so hard, that building was bucking so hard, I'm 6'3", and it was throwing me around like a rag doll. And my teeth, I couldn't keep my teeth from clapping in the dream. And when I woke up, I mean, for me to be shaking like that, that had to be a God dream. It was not a regular dream.
Sure.
Right.
So I believe, this is what I personally believe. I can't prove this. It's just supposition. I believe that it may be possible that that's on hold in the event that America mishandles Jerusalem. If the Secretary of State, whoever that may be in the future, or if the President in the future pressures Israel to divide Jerusalem, and we have a hand in it, I believe the New Madrid is going to bust wide open and divide America. That's what I believe. I think that's possible. I can't say it for sure.
Right.
And I've done a lot of research. I always research. I love the Bible. I love the Word of God. True science backs everything.
Yes.
That New Madrid Fault, I don't know if you knew at that time when you had the vision, that was probably the worst earthquake ever to hit the United States of America.
I'll hear that later.
An unknown area. People didn't know. And now, since then, in fact, today, there was an earthquake on the fault.
Really?
Today, as we're taping this program. Is that right, students? The students have, James, my son, yeah, they found it. But that whole thing has been shaking that whole area for months and months now. But Rick Joyner believes that it could happen very, very soon. He's heard your prophecy. Of course, you delivered some things there at Heritage. That fault line, as I researched science, that's the same fault type that created the oceans that's in the middle of America. And that has the ability, and Rick Joyner says if that happens, the commerce in America, the trucking, everything, America will be divided. The famine, food shortage, everything, it will be a disaster.
I saw that river just immediately go, but...
Now that river ran backwards in, I don't know what year it was.
Yeah, it did.
About 1800s, late 1800s, I guess it was, or somewhere there. And that river ran backwards. It rang church bells in Boston. It was beyond comprehension.
You know, anytime we mishandle Israel, or Jerusalem especially, see, in the last days, the Bible doesn't say that Israel is going to be the issue. It says Jerusalem's going to be the issue. It's the city, not the nation. The Bible says that God will make Jerusalem, not Israel, a cup of trembling to all the nations. And that means the United Nations. All nations is the United Nations. And it said that he'll make Jerusalem a cup of trembling to all nations. But you know, I say this respectfully. I love President Bush. And I backed him 100%, and I still do. I love him and respect him. But when he made Israel give up Gaza, Gaza was a seaside city in Israel of 80,000 people. And whenever they had to leave their homes, there were Jews pulling Jews out of their homes, and they were evacuating by helicopter people off the tops of synagogues. And did you know in a matter of days, New Orleans had a Hurricane Katrina, and they were plucking people off the rooftops with helicopters just like they were in Gaza a few days before. But of all the places where the water came in into New Orleans was a place where the dike broke called the West Bank. It was a place called the West Bank in New Orleans. And when President Bush, in my opinion, when President Bush mishandled Israel, I believe right then his presidency was over, because after that he struggled. He had a struggle making speeches. He couldn't hardly talk. From the time he mishandled Israel. Let me tell you something, and I really feel led to say this. It's a dangerous thing to be elected president of the United States for one reason. How are you going to handle Israel and how are you going to handle Jerusalem? Makes no difference how you handle Paris. Makes no difference how you handle Rio. Makes no difference how you handle South Africa. Makes no difference how you handle Iraq. But how a president and the Secretary of State handles Israel and Jerusalem can have major ramifications on that man and this nation. So we've got to make sure whoever we elect president is going to be a friend to Israel and will be a friend of Jerusalem. Got to make sure.
And the world is focused on Israel right now. The armies have surrounded Jerusalem. We're living in this hour. And, you know, after you prophesied these things, we research here. We have my students research. October 30th, 1991, George Bush opened the Madrid conference. Isn't it amazing? The name was Madrid. And aimed at forcing Israel to give up more land. And at that same time, a storm, 35-foot high wave hit his home.
That's Bush number one.
That's in Bush's New England home. Then August 23rd, 1992, was you referring to it, the Madrid conference moved to Washington, D.C., and that same day, Hurricane Andrew, the worst natural disaster in U.S. history at the time, caused $30 billion in damage, left 180,000 people homeless. And then it goes on. Then President Clinton met with Syria's president for talks on forcing Israel to give up the Golan Heights. Less than 24 hours later, a 6.9 earthquake shook Southern California, second most destructive natural disaster to hit the U.S. And it goes on and on. And 1997, March 1st. And then tornadoes devastated America on these same days.
Sunday morning, and I told him, I said, anytime we've mishandled Israel, it cost us. When you're dealing with the church, you're dealing with grace, but when you're dealing with Israel, you're dealing with the law. And it's fast, quick retribution. And so I told the church that morning, I said, I'm in fear of what's about to happen. And that afternoon, the tornado struck Joplin, Missouri. That was within 2 days after President Obama said that Israel's got to go back to the land they got. They need to go back to the old boundaries. And it struck Joplin. So it doesn't make any difference who we are, what the name of our nation is. If you're dealing with Israel or you're dealing with Jerusalem, you're not talking about grace. You're talking about an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. You're talking about swift retribution.
These are 10 events that I don't have time to share with you today. But the big one was when President George Bush pressured Israel to evacuate the Gaza Strip. 8,000 Israeli settlers were forced to leave their homes. Exactly 1 week later, Hurricane Katrina smashed Louisiana. 80% of the city of New Orleans was under water. And the percentage of the Israeli population that was made homeless by the forced evacuation was almost equal to the same percentage of the American population left homeless by Katrina. This is prophetic. This is people don't believe these things, but you can't have 10 situations. I mean, the others are just as startling.
Not only is it prophetic, but it's predictable.
Yeah.
It's predictable.
It's good.
And somebody, the president, whoever the president may be, the president really needs to have people around him that can say, oh, Mr. President, oh, please be careful. Please be careful. You may do this, but this nation's going to suffer. You may make this decision, you may say this, but the ramifications are going to hit our nation. The people will suffer. That's why the Bible says when the godly are in rule, the people are blessed, but when the ungodly are in rule, the people languish. It's the people that suffers from political decisions.
I brought here with Shane Warren, and Shane had a vision of the future of America. Shane, tell me, let's start out about the vision of the storm.
Approximately a year or so ago, I was sitting on the couch. I thought I had fallen asleep, when in reality I was in a vision, an open vision. I have a large screen television in my living room. I was sitting on the couch watching television, and again I thought I was dreaming. As I watched, there was a weather broadcast that was on television, and there was a news anchor who said, the most amazing thing is going on right now. It's tragic, and they were building this news broadcast around this event. And he said, normally hurricanes hit on the coastal lines. He said, but there is a hurricane that seems to be spreading down or coming across the heartland of America. At that point, he showed a satellite image of America, and I was horrified as I watched a storm covering from the northern border to the southern border, from east to west, as this massive storm with the eye right over the center of America, a hurricane coming across the center of America.
How can that be?
This is how I believe it happened. Immediately it came back to this anchor. The anchor said, we have somebody on the ground in the eye of the storm. We're going to go to him now. They pitched it to a news reporter. This news reporter in the eye of the storm, and as you would see in a hurricane, the wind is blowing violently and they're being tossed to and fro. He said, this is the most amazing thing. I don't understand it. This is not a natural storm. That was his words. He said, this isn't normal. He said, look at what it's raining. And he reached down on the ground and he's picking up and he holds in his hand a fist of $1 bills. He said, this isn't natural. It's raining dollar bills. And the anchor and this correspondent went back and forth about the meaning of this dollar bills. He said, I don't understand. It's almost like they're worthless. They're worthless. It was raining dollars. About that time it came back to the anchor. He said, ladies and gentlemen, another tragedy has hit America. He said, right in the heartland of America on the New Madrid Fault, a major earthquake has just hit, and immediately pictures of devastation began to pop up all over America, the heartland of America, along the New Madrid Fault, as earthquakes cause entire cities to crumble. And while I was sitting there, I heard a booming voice in behind my ear that said, they have divided my land, now I will divide their land.
And Leviticus says that Israel is God's land. He actually says, this is my land.
And the Word of God goes on to prophesy in Joel, I believe it is, that if we divide His land, that God will divide our land. I never realized the prophetic implications of that, but I knew immediately in my dream or in this vision that He was speaking about Israel, and specifically Jerusalem, and all that's going on right now, which tells me that this dream that I've had and all of the issues that are going on with Israel and Jerusalem that's taking place right now, Sid, it tells me that this dream that I had is about to unfold because I heard that.
Reporting for Israel Today magazine in Jerusalem, I'm Jonathan David. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry returned to Israel on Wednesday amid local concerns that his boss, President Barack Obama, intends to impose a peace settlement on Israel and the Palestinians that ultimately serves American interests. In greeting Kerry upon his arrival on Wednesday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he was worried about the direction the current peace talks are taking. Kerry, however, reiterated his belief that the negotiations are going well and progressing as planned. Just hours before Kerry's arrival, Israeli and Palestinian negotiators met for the 17th time since the renewal of peace talks last summer. But the session quickly deteriorated into a shouting match. The current main issue of contention is the Palestinian demand to begin negotiations with the understanding that Israel will surrender nearly 100% of Judea and Samaria, including the Jordan Valley and the eastern half of Jerusalem.